Chapter 1577. At this moment, Yiqing Luo, who was at the bottom of the water, had no idea. Her act of sacrificing herself to save others had already turned Zi Qianshan into a street rat, and everyone wanted to beat her up. If she knew, she would probably have to say some righteous and fearless words before entering the water to pull Zi Qianshan's hatred. Submerged in the stream, Yiqing Luo opened her eyes. The bottom of the water was not as dark as what Zi Qianshan had said. On the contrary, the bottom of the water was extremely bright. After opening her eyes, there was not a single drop of water that affected her vision. Yiqing Luo could clearly see everything under the water. Old man Song, this thing. Is it really the kind of magical beast you mentioned? Yiqing Luo looked around in the water. Other than water, there was nothing else. But Yiqing Luo still felt something different. This water was extremely clear and bottomless. She submerged but was unable to reach the bottom of the water. And just now, when she stood by the shore and watched those students enter the water, at most it had reached their chests. If it wasn't for the fact that old man Song had told her about the underwater monster before she entered the water, she probably would have thought that she had entered another space. Last Luo, there is no smell of blood under the water. Those students should be fine. Old man Song's voice rang. The most important thing for you now is to find the place where the students were placed. If this magical beast wants to enjoy its food, it will be too late. I also want to find that place. This underwater is totally the same. I have been flopping around for almost half an incense's time and haven't seen anything else. Don't tell me this magical beast knows how to hit the wall? After flopping around for half a day, she still couldn't reach the bottom. The surrounding was still clear water. Don't let your guard down, this is the magical beast's territory. Old man Song's voice was solemn. Yiqing Luo responded repeatedly, although she was complaining. But she didn't dare to let her guard down. Underwater was the magical beast's home ground. And this stream was the magical beast's territory. Of course she wouldn't let her guard down when she was in someone else's territory. Yiqing Luo flopped around and gradually she seemed to have lost her strength. The frequency of her limbs moving became slower and slower. Finally she gradually stopped flopping. Her entire body fell into the depths of the water. Just then, in a split second, a bloody mouth appeared in the surrounding clear water. Their sharp teeth were like sharp blades. He opened his mouth as fast as lightning, completely unaffected by the resistance of the water current, and directly bit towards the falling girl. Just as the ferocious mouth was about to reach the young girl, the girl, who had been exhausted, suddenly swayed. The red feather fan in his hand swept up a beam of mysterious light and directly entered the bloody mouth. Then her body was like a nimble fish in the water, constantly moving. The profound energy in his body did not slow down in the slightest just because he was underwater. Boom, 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 all of a sudden the entire stream shook violently. A terrifying whirlwind swept up the stream water. Bang, 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 that whirlwind fell onto the enchantment which Yiqing Luo had conjured using the glower flame fan. At the same time she released her profound energy and entered that bloody mouth. Thus she formed a barrier for herself. Chapter 1578. I guessed it right. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as a cold smile appeared on her lips. This stream was not a stream at all. It was obviously the stomach of this magical beast. This magical beast's IQ was obviously very high, and it was very patient. Yiqing Luo had to deliberately pretend that she had been in the water for too long and was exhausted. Thus she managed to lure this magical beast out. This demonic beast would use such a method of pretending to be a stream to trick students into taking the bait. It was obvious that this magical beast did not have any attack ability, apart from that sharp mouth of his. Yiqing Luo specially tried it once. He struck his own profound chi into that bloody mouth. Sure enough, it stirred up the entire stream. In other words, she was now in the stomach of this magical beast. After confirming this point, Yiqing Luo was already full of confidence in this magical beast. That bloody mouth turned around and tried to escape when it sensed Yiqing Luo's counterattack. But Yiqing Luo's speed, even in the water, was extremely fast. The glower flame fan in her hand had once again stirred up a wave of water. Mixed with the profound energy of the sky profound realm, it directly covered that bloody mouth. Immediately following that, Yiqing Luo leaped. She lifted her foot and stepped on that big mouth. The glowing flame fan in his hand ruthlessly smashed down in the direction of the sharp teeth on the bloody mouth. Female hero, spare me. Female hero, spare me. Suddenly that bloody mouth opened and closed with difficulty. A magical voice, similar to a robot's voice, came out from that bloody mouth. Yiqing Luo's slender brows raised slightly. This thing could speak human language? Female hero, spare me. I dare not to eat people anymore. I dare not. The bloody mouth was still opening and closing, looking extremely comical. Yiqing Luo stopped her action. She took a step back and raised her eyebrows at the big mouth in front of her. It really is a strange beast. The big mouth seemed to be stunned. It did not expect Yiqing Luo to call out its name clearly. Strange beast. It was somewhat similar to a chameleon. It could change into the corresponding thing according to the surrounding environment. It sounded like this function was very heaven-defying. But in fact, this function had no other use other than to save lives. The worst part was the meat of the mutated beast. His favorite food was meat. However, as an aberration without the ability to attack, the aberration was extremely powerful. The mutant beast expressed that even eating grass would be a problem, let alone eating meat. Where are my classmates? Yiqing Luo glanced coldly at that mouth which she couldn't bear to look at. The mutated beast fell silent for a moment, until he sensed the murderous intent in Yiqing Luo's eyes. It stuttered and cried, "It's in my stomach. I haven't eaten it yet. You should at least leave 10 for me." Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Aberration wanted to cry but no tears came out. Then, what about those 3? Yiqing Luo continued to raise her brows. 1. I only need 1. I haven't tasted meat in years. At the very least, let me have a taste of meat. The mutant gritted its teeth and made its final compromise. Yiqing Luo gave a fake smile. Not one of my classmates can be missing. The mutated beast wailed. Damn it. There was no justice in this world. Bullying a beast without the ability to attack like this. Really good. In the end, under Yiqing Luo's coercion. Chapter 1579. This time round, there were at least 400 students who had been tricked into the stomach of the strange beast. These students were shrouded in a sticky membrane. Looking at it with the naked eye, it looked like a bubble. It enveloped those 400 over students within it. Some of the students were sitting, some were lying down, some were standing. They had been soaked in water for a long time. These students' energy had long been depleted. Even with the protection of this membrane, the air which the students breathed in was getting thinner and thinner. They had no way to escape this membrane. They could only feel their energy gradually leaving their bodies. Their consciousness slowly drifted away. They could only wait for death. Waiting for death in this kind of despair. But they suddenly heard someone's voice. They heard someone asking about my classmates. Their hearts inexplicably surged with a surge of hope. Someone was here to save them. Finally, someone was here to save them. That sentence, not one of my classmates can be missing, deeply shocked them. That person. Who on earth was she? What? Her words had a kind of magical power, making them on the verge of death. They all had the belief that they could live on. The 400 over students mustered up their last bit of energy. Indeed, they saw outside the membrane a slender figure, slowly approaching them. Just one person? Just one person? From the voice earlier, it seemed to be a lady? It was just a lady and she wanted to save them all by herself? Just as everyone's mind was filled with different thoughts. A lady's clear and melodious voice rang beside their ears. Don't be afraid, I'm here to pick you all up. Just a few simple words. It made these 400 over students feel increasingly shocked. Instantly their eyes turned red. They had a feeling of wanting to cry. The students were all shocked. But this strange beast which had been subdued by Yiqing Luo, had tears streaming down its face. It had finally met a group of silly young humans. It was not easy for it to catch a pile of food. It had not expected. It had been kicked to the cold bench. The food was gone. Its life was still in danger. He didn't know if this heroine would spare its life on account of the fact that it hadn't hurt anyone yet. The mutated beast was still grieving in its heart. A light voice floated into his ears. Aren't you going to send my classmates ashore? The mutant's mouth trembled. This lowly one will give it to you right now. Then he stuck out his tongue from his big mouth. He licked the thin film reluctantly. In the end, he let out a sobbing sound and threw the students onto the shore in grief. The bloody mouth swayed its tongue as it twisted towards Yiqing Luo. Female hero, I have already followed your instructions and sent the food. Cough all of your classmates to the shore, can you? It wanted to plead. But seeing Yiqing Luo's expression which seemed like a smile yet not a smile. No matter what, he couldn't bring himself to plead for leniency. Heroine, can you not laugh? When you smile, this lowly one is scared. Being an aberration beast was really painful. Woo woo woo. Are you a magical beast released by the ghost warrior, or are you a magical beast that lives in the flame nest? Yiqing Luo picked her ears. It was really unbearable to hear this strange beast howling like a pig being slaughtered. The strange beast was stunned. It immediately replied, "This lowly one has been in the flame nest since birth. I have lived for 800 years. Till now I haven't even eaten a bite of meat. Absolutely a kind and adorable little beast." Chapter 1580. Hearing the strange beast's description of itself, Yiqing Luo's lips twitched a few times. God. Ehe. It was obviously cowardly and incompetent. Cute. Ehe. How was it cute when it had such a big bloody mouth and sharp teeth? The strange beast was still wailing about its 800 years of miserable deeds. His cries were filled with pain and sorrow. It was even more pitiful than the lines where there were old people and young children. Yiqing Luo rubbed her aching brows as she raised her hand to stop the strange beast's torrent of words. It wasn't a magical beast released by ghost martial artist. Even if it was killed, it wouldn't be able to obtain the magic crystal. Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to waste any more time. You're lucky to have met me this time. I advise you to stay calm for the next 2 days. If you alarm Gui Wu and Zoamo, you'll be hacked into 1,000 pieces and turned into food for others due to the fact that you've kidnapped over 400 students. The strange beast expressed, "How could it be considered lucky to meet a heroine like you?" As though she could read the strange beast's thoughts, Yiqing Luo immediately continued, "We will at most stay till the day after tomorrow before we leave the blazing flame nest. After that, however you want to seduce other students, you can do so." The strange beast's eyes were misty with tears. Sob, 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 so it wasn't staying in the blazing flame nest for long. After the heroine left, it could still eat meat. Yiqing Luo looked at that big bloody mouth which kept swaying its tongue and frowned as she turned around and swam towards the shore. The strange beast hurriedly chased after her. "Heroine that? You will leave the day after tomorrow then? That bunch of black-robed people, when will they leave?" Black-robed people? Yiqing Luo's movements paused. She knew that the strange beast was referring to those people from the dark forces. Had they really entered the blazing flame nest? Were they preparing to carry out the plan? How long has that group of people been in the blazing flame nest? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she asked. The strange beast replied, "It seems like a few months ago, there were dozens of people dressed in black robes and emitting black qi." Pausing for a moment, it thought of something. "That's right, there seemed to be another few hundred people who entered last night. A few months ago? It seemed to be when the prophecy of the blazing flame nest descending into the world spread throughout Nirvana realm. At that time, the dark forces had infiltrated the fire lair. The profound practitioners who were attracted by the prophecy would be absorbed by the flame beasts. Then, hundreds of people came last night? Is the plan of the Wolf Saint technique in the Heavenly Dean ready to be implemented? Heroine, do you want to know the whereabouts of those people? This lowly one can help you lock onto the target." The mutated beast said fawningly. That tone. It was as if it was telling Yiqing Luo, "This beastie is very cute and obedient, and can even be a scouting device. Such a good beastie, you absolutely cannot kill it." Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. "Mutated beast, if you obediently help me, I guarantee that you'll be able to eat delicious meat tomorrow." She smiled like a strange auntie who had kidnapped a little girl, and there was a hint of slyness flowing between her eyebrows. The bloody mouth took a few steps back. Immediately after, he braced himself and said, "Whatever orders you have, I will definitely obey." Bang, 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 several heavy objects fell to the ground. The students who were still poking their heads out from the shore and staring at the calm water were startled. Following that, they saw something popping out from the water. The students screamed, thinking that it was the monster in the water. Until the students landed on the shore one by one. They then reacted. Chapter 1581. There were quite a number of students present who more or less knew some simple medical skills. And earlier Yiqing Luo had taught them how to expel the water from their bodies. The students on the shore suddenly formed a tacit understanding. They started to carry out the simplest treatment for those students who were saved in an orderly manner. The young girl who had been taking care of her brother saw those students who were sucked into the water being sent back to the shore. She rushed forward anxiously and grabbed the collar of one of the students who had undergone simple treatment. "Where's student Yiqing Luo? She saved you guys, then what about her? How is she?" That student was still in a daze. But after the treatment he had regained some rationality. Hearing the girl's culture, the student went into a slight blank. What? You said Yiqing Luo saved us? Other than her, who else has that kind of ability? The girl's face turned pale as her little hand increased the strength. Quickly tell us. Student Yiqing Luo, how is she? The student coughed violently. I don't know. She asked that magical beast in the water to send us up and we were thrown up. She seems to be still down there, fighting with that magical beast. What? The girl fell onto the ground in shock, her face pale. Their conversation. The surrounding people heard it clearly. Those students who were saved were unable to conceal the shock and trembling in their hearts. The person who saved them was actually Yiqing Luo, that young lady who had always been insulted and ridiculed by them because of jealousy and envy. In the past, when they heard Yiqing Luo's name, they would sneer and scold her as trash. But today they were saved by a trash. By the side of their ears, a lady's light and sweet-sounding voice, which was filled with a convincing magical power, was still ringing. She said, "My classmates, not a single one can be missing." She said, "Don't be afraid, I'm here to pick you up." This gave them a huge amount of confidence. A voice which reassured them. It actually came from Yiqing Luo's mouth. Obviously, they had nothing to do with each other. Obviously, they were enemies. But Yiqing Luo saved them. Listening to the girl's soft sobbing, calling out, "Student Yiqing Luo." These rescued students were also filled with a sense of guilt from the bottom of their hearts. They simply didn't know how Yiqing Luo was now. At the bottom of the water, due to their exhaustion and the thinning air, their consciousness became more and more unclear. Not long after, he was thrown to the shore. "I don't believe it. I don't believe it." Suddenly, a lady who was being treated sat up straight and her shrill voice was extremely ear-piercing. "How would that slut Yiqing Luo possibly know how to save people? You're talking nonsense. With so many pairs of eyes watching, how can it be fake?" The sobbing girl's eyes were red as she stared angrily at that woman. "Student Su Xiaolian, Student Yiqing Luo risked her life to save you, yet you don't know how to be grateful and even insulted Student Yiqing Luo. You will suffer retribution." Su Xiaolian's expression was ferocious. Who doesn't know how dangerous this stream is? Why would she go into the water to save us? It was Goddess Chanshan who saved us, right? It's Goddess Chanshan? Her eyes darted around. On the other side of the stream he saw Zi Chanshan standing alone. The voice stopped abruptly. "Zi Chanshan saved us? Pui?" A male student with a hoarse voice struggled to get up. "Just now, when that monster was about to suck us into the water, I risked my life to protect her. It was not easy to send her to the shore, but she actually used her Tianling staff to send me flying." Chapter 1582. Hearing Lu Muyuan's words. Zi Chanshan's face instantly turned pale. The few King Academy students beside her opened their eyes wide. They stared fiercely at Zi Chanshan, unable to believe that this number one beauty whom their boss doted on wholeheartedly would be so vicious to sacrifice Lu Muyuan's life for her own survival. Lu Muyuan was their own boss. They were courteous to Zi Chanshan because of Lu Muyuan's face. At this moment, hearing Lu Muyuan's words, how could they possibly endure it? Walking up in quick steps, she tore off the King Academy's uniform which Zi Chanshan was wearing. Her strength was so strong that it directly tore off Zi Chanshan's wet clothes. A red hood appeared in front of everyone's eyes. More than half of her fair skin was exposed. Zi Chanshan hadn't even had the chance to react. Only to hear a loud paw sound. One of the King Academy students directly gave Zi Chanshan a tight slap on her face. "You slut." Zi Chanshan was stunned from the slap. This slap was extremely heavy. The corner of her mouth was bleeding. Her beautiful face was red and swollen. You dare to hit me." Zi Chanshan covered her face filled with resentment. "I'm hitting you, stinky female whore." The King Academy students hadn't calmed down as he raised his palm and was about to strike. "Enough." Lu Muyuan shouted sternly. This shout made his throat itch as he started coughing violently. The few King Academy students couldn't be bothered about Zi Chanshan as they hurriedly ran towards the opposite side of the stream to take care of their boss. Whereas the students who stood on Zi Chanshan's side, all looked at her with disdain. Such an extremely vicious woman who repaid kindness with ingratitude. They didn't want to provoke her. Seeing her being hit, the students only had one word in their hearts. That was awesome. Devil classes students stood by the shore as they lowered their heads to look at the calm water surface. Their expressions were calm. No, more accurately, they were expressionless. If it wasn't for the anxiety in their eyes. The students all thought that these people weren't worried about Yiqing Luo's safety at all. Only thing was, they didn't enter the water to save Yiqing Luo. That young girl whose eyes were red from crying, carefully walked towards them, looking at Long Yunjian whose face was filled with a gloomy and cold aura. This student. Your student Yiqing Luo's brothers, can you? She clenched her fists, and there was a hint of determination in her eyes. Can you bring me into the water? The icy flames on Long Yunjian's body instantly stopped. The other students from the devil class also looked over in astonishment as they looked at this little girl who was obviously trembling in fear but was still extremely stubborn. They thought that this girl wanted them to go into the water to save Yiqing Luo. He didn't expect that he wanted to save Yiqing Luo. It seemed that this lass had wanted to die with her brother just now. She was a loyal and affectionate girl. Little sister, don't worry. Yan Xiaoyi touched the little girl's head. Since Qing Luo asked us to stay here, she must have absolute confidence. What we need to do is to believe in her. But. Yan Xiaoyi squatted down and looked at this adorable girl in front of her as she couldn't help but pinched her face. Believe in sister's words and also believe in Qing Luo. This lass and Mo Yuing were the same type. But unfortunately, Mo Yuing, that fellow, always had a straight face as though she was a soulless puppet. Chapter 1583. Just at this moment the water surface suddenly started to churn. Following that, they saw a figure drilling out from the water. The crowd cried out in shock as they stared at the direction of the stream with their eyes wide open. Qing Luo. Student Yiqing Luo. The continuous exclamations were accompanied by the joyful and excited shouts of countless students. That young lady who appeared from the water was dressed in a green and white long robe. Under the contrast of the water, it looked like the reflection of water. Coming out from the water should have looked extremely disheveled. But unfortunately Yiqing Luo didn't look like she was soaked in water at all. If it wasn't for the fact that she had personally emerged from the water. If it wasn't for the fact that the water droplets were faintly dripping down from her head. The students all thought that Yiqing Luo had just returned from a leisurely stroll. As though she heard the noisy surrounding and many people were shouting her name, Yiqing Luo turned her gaze over. She met with those pairs of worshipful and reverent gazes. Some of the female students even screamed uncontrollably. Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. What was wrong with these students? From the emotions in their eyes, Yiqing Luo couldn't see any feigned reverence. That fiery gaze. It was as though it was going to burn her up. She had only gone into the water. These students were so passionate towards her? If she knew this method was so useful, she would have used it earlier. Qing Luo, are you alright? Long Yunjian went up to support Yiqing Luo's arm. Yiqing Luo's clothes were wet and extremely sticky to her hands. Long Yunjian's nose twitched as he smelled the smell of the stream water on Yiqing Luo's body as his brows creased slightly. This smell? You're right. Yiqing Luo pushed his hand away as she rubbed her hands helplessly. I'm fine, don't worry. I've already saved all the students in the water. Do a head count and see if anyone is missing. Saying that, she tugged at the wet clothes on her body agitatedly. I'll go change my clothes first, it's simply too disgusting. Looking at Yiqing Luo's escaping figure, the students fell into silence. Disgusting? Yiqing Luo didn't look like she had gone through a tough battle. Could it be that the monster under the stream looked extremely ferocious and disgusting? With this question in mind, the students still organized their classmates and began to do a head count. Amidst the chaos, Su Xiaolian struggled to leave everyone's support and rushed to Zi Qianqian's side. Su Xiaolian frowned as she looked at Zi Qianqian, whose face was ashen and whose eyes were filled with hatred. In the end, he suppressed the displeasure in his heart and grabbed Zi Qianqian's wrist. Goddess Qianqian, let's take this opportunity to leave this place. Pa. Zi Qianqian gave Su Xiaolian a backhand slap. A pair of scarlet eyes shot out in extremely frightening ruthlessness. Bitch. If not for you. If it wasn't for you, how could I? How could he have been slapped by trash from another academy in front of so many people? Who was she? She was the #1 beauty of the Heavenly Academy. They were students from the class of gods. He was an existence that everyone should respect. He had actually been slapped in the face by a trash from another academy. This slap did not just hit her face. It was her future. Everything of hers. How was she going to face anyone in the future and walk in the pugilistic world? It was all Su Xiaolian's fault. Chapter 1584. Even after being rescued, he still didn't know how to live peacefully. Why did he have to push the blame onto her? If it weren't for Su Xiaolian's blabbermouth, how could she have been slapped like that? No matter how arrogant and noble Zi Qianqian usually was, he was not a match for him. But she was only a 17 or 18-year-old girl after all. Especially since he was used to being flattered. Her temperament was extremely unstable. It was just a slap, but it had completely destroyed the wall she had built in her heart over the years. At this moment, Zi Chanshan's face was ferocious, and his eyes were filled with ferocity. That slap had caused a huge commotion. Many students had already cast their gazes over. She saw the fiendish Zi Chanshan roaring hysterically at Su Xiaolian. Their eyes were filled with ridicule, and no one was willing to step forward to mediate. Instead, he was extremely interested in this dog-eat-dog drama. Zi Chanshan's slap caused blood to flow from the corner of Su Xiaolian's mouth. Her eyes reddened. Listening to Zi Chanshan's hysterical curses, Zhang Shen's eyes widened. Su Xiaolian's heart was filled with disdain. If it wasn't for the fact that Zi Chanshan was as dumb as a pig, being toyed around by Yiqing Luo, how could Zi Chanshan have fallen to such a state? It was clearly his own incompetence. Yet he had pushed all the blame onto her. However, even if there were many dissatisfaction in his heart, he even wanted to personally kill Zi Chanshan. However, when she thought of the reason why she wanted to please Zi Chanshan, she forcefully endured it. No matter how useless Zi Chanshan was, she was still a student of the class of gods. Moreover, the Zi Chanshan clan was extremely powerful. If she wanted to stay in the Heavenly Academy, she must suck up to Zi Chanshan. Goddess Chanshan, that bitch won't be able to see tomorrow's sun. Why do you have to be angry with someone who's about to die? Su Xiaolian persuaded in a soft voice, if we stay here now, we'll just be a joke to these blind people. Why don't we find our partner and discuss how to make that bitch die a more painful death? When Zi Chanshan heard this, the resentment in his eyes faded a little. That's right. She wanted Yiqing Luo to die in even more agony. Let Yiqing Luo die in a state of agony worse than death, in despair. She was going to find that mysterious woman. Advance their plans. Just at this moment, the two of them heard those students calling out respectfully, "Student Yiqing Luo." That respectful look. Even when facing her, it had never happened before. Zi Chanshan saw this and clenched his fists even tighter. Across the stream, Yiqing Luo changed into a clean uniform and held a large handkerchief in one hand as she wiped her wet hair. It was obvious that he had taken a bath. All the students' attention were placed on Yiqing Luo. He had totally not thought about where Yiqing Luo would find water to bathe in such a dehydrated place like the blazing flame nest. The current Yiqing Luo was dressed in a clean and refreshing green and white uniform, with a head of jet black hair dripping with water droplets. Along the way he left a wet trail on the ground. She looked even more stunning than the Empyrean fairy. Momentarily, all the students' gazes were staring at Yiqing Luo in a daze, unable to regain their senses for some time. Until Yiqing Luo coughed lightly, "Have you all counted the number of people?" The students suddenly came back to their senses. Their faces flushed red as they hurriedly replied, "Our academy students have all been rescued." "The same goes for our academy." "Us too." It seemed that all the students had been rescued. Chapter 1585. It's just a little magical beast that can only transform. It's already been tamed, so it's all right. Yiqing Luo waved her hand as she replied disapprovingly. When the students heard that, the admiration they had for Yiqing Luo was like an endless torrential river water. Those students who were lying on the ground, still recuperating, were also filled with admiration for Yiqing Luo. That monster which had pulled nearly 400 over students into the water, almost losing their lives. In Yiqing Luo's mouth, it was just a little magical beast, and it was easily tamed. How could they not admire Yiqing Luo? Yiqing Luo's ability was actually so strong. No wonder even that hypocritical vicious woman in the class of gods couldn't defeat Yiqing Luo. If Yiqing Luo knew what the students were thinking about, she would probably burst out laughing. The mutated beast was a small magical beast that didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. The reason why these students were caught was because the strange beast used a scheme, making use of the students' fear towards the unknown, taking advantage of the situation. Madame Qing Luo has tamed that magical beast, then this stream. Can we? Some students carefully asked the question which all the students wanted to ask in their hearts. The rarest thing in the blazing flame nest was water. If it wasn't for water, they couldn't possibly fall into such a predicament. The magical beast had already been tamed, so if they were to get close to the stream, would they be fine? With this thought in mind, the crowd's hopeful gazes all turned towards Yiqing Luo. This. Yiqing Luo touched her head, as her face revealed some hesitation. Zi Chanshan, who was opposite, snorted coldly as his brows were filled with disdain. "I think she didn't tame that monster at all, just trying to show off in front of everyone." "Slut. You shut up." The moment the students heard Zi Chanshan's voice, They started to berate her sternly. But the gazes which the crowd shot towards Yiqing Luo were filled with doubts. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at Zi Qianqian, who was standing opposite the stream. The corners of her lips curled into a chilly arc. Her long and narrow eyes were curved, revealing a ridiculing intent. It was just a light smile. It made the surrounding air seem to condense. The students even controlled the sound of their breathing very carefully. For a time the entire fire lair returned to silence. After some time Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she slowly walked towards that stream. Whether you want to drink or bathe in this stream, it's up to you. Yiqing Luo's chilly voice was like pearls falling on a plate, word by word, spitting out from her mouth. His tone was calm and emotionless. The students from the various academies looked at each other. They wanted to drink from the stream. He also wanted to take a bath. However, after experiencing Zi Qianqian's questioning, the air suddenly turned cold. None of them dared to take the first step. Zi Qianqian couldn't bear to see Yiqing Luo in the limelight and had a feeling that they would perish together. With a ferocious expression, she gritted her teeth and strode towards the stream. I want to see if you've really tamed that monster. However, Zi Qianqian had also learned to be smarter. He opened his palm and took out the Tianling staff. Holding the Tianling staff, she dived into the stream. He stirred his staff a few times. The Tianling staff was a divine weapon. Naturally, it could sense the intention of submission from the strange beast. This feeling was also transmitted to Zi Qianqian. Zi Qianqian's expression changed slightly as he kept the Tianling staff. Yiqing Luo actually tamed that monster? That monster was not even afraid of the Tianling staff. Chapter 1586. These questions, no matter how hard she racked her head, she couldn't think of an answer. Zi Qianqian simply couldn't be bothered to think further. She still had to stay in the blazing flame nest for the night. It was impossible for Yiqing Luo to pass her the food and water bag. She had to prepare her own water bag for the night. Tomorrow morning, everything that happened today would come to an end. With this thought in mind, Zi Qianqian took out the empty water bag and filled it to the brim. Yiqing Luo, you're deliberately mystifying, trying to monopolize this stream. I'm not going to let you have it. She stuffed the water bag into her realm ring and drank several mouthfuls of the stream water in front of Yiqing Luo. Following that, she stood up. Just at this moment, Zi Qianqian's sleeves fluttered and a burst of profound qi shot out from her palm. That palm wind blew up the surrounding trees. In a split second, dust billowed, sand and stones flew. Those trees were uprooted and the gravel on the ground fell into the stream. The crystal-clear stream was extremely dirty. There was no way to drink this stream. Zi Qianqian, you. Those students were flustered and exasperated, pointing at Zi Qianqian. They couldn't wait to pounce on her and dismember her into pieces. That was the only stream in the blazing flame nest. The only source of water. And it was destroyed by Zi Qianqian just like that. Zi Qianqian, you slut. Too vicious. Zi Qianqian's actions had completely aroused everyone's anger. Just as everyone was filled with righteous indignation, some of the rash students were about to rush over to press Zi Qianqian down and beat her up. A clear voice rang, so what if it's destroyed anyway? This stream isn't real. The students were stunned. They looked towards the direction of the voice. Boss Qing Luo, what do you mean? What did she mean by this stream wasn't real? You should be glad that you didn't drink this stream. Yiqing Luo's smiling eyes congealed on the complacent Zi Qianqian. Zi Qianqian spat coldly, deliberately mystifying. Yiqing Luo crossed her arms and walked towards the stream. Following that, she lifted her leg and kicked the water surface. That stream, at the instant when Yiqing Luo touched it, gradually disappeared. Vaguely, under the cover of the tree trunk, the students could vaguely see the stream. It was a little red. They were like pieces of bloody meat. However, upon closer inspection, the place where the stream used to be had turned into a flat road. If it weren't for the fallen trees on the ground, the middle school students would have thought that everything that had just happened was just a dream. What's going on? Where's the stream? How did it disappear? Did you see that? When the stream disappeared, I think I saw something that looked like a piece of meat. Right. Why do I feel like it's some kind of internal organ? The students discussed among themselves with lingering fear. What you said is right. Yiqing Luo's calm voice interrupted the students' suspicions. She smiled faintly, and her gaze swept across the surrounding students before finally landing on Zi Qianqian. This stream is transformed from that little magical beast's body. This stream is that little magical beast's internal organs and that stream water. Is the water in that little magical beast's stomach? Oh right, this little magical beast likes to hide its own excrement in its body, so that it can transform into a longer stream, to cheat you kids who want to drink water. Yiqing Luo's voice had just landed. Sounds of vomiting could be heard from the surroundings. The students' faces turned pale as they held onto their chests and vomited violently. Damn it! Water in the stomach? Excrement? Chapter 1587. Especially those 400 over students who were sucked into the water, they vomited to their heart's content. You're lying. Zi Chanshan's little face turned pale as she covered her throat with one hand and staggered backwards. Impossible. How could this water be fake? This must be a lie that Yiqing Luo purposely wanted to tease her and scare her. Yiqing Luo raised her brows with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Then, just treat it as if I'm lying to you. Zi Chanshan was so angry that she almost vomited blood. What did she mean by treat it as if she was lying to her? This was originally a lie. She didn't believe it. She absolutely wouldn't believe it. Zi Chanshan kept reminding herself in her heart. But in her heart, she couldn't control it at this moment. She chose to believe Yiqing Luo's words. Ugh! Zi Chanshan really couldn't bear with the surging of her stomach. She bent over and vomited in big mouthfuls. Looking at Zi Chanshan and Su Xiaolian vomiting as they left in a sorry state. Those students who originally felt disgusted couldn't help but burst out laughing. Hundreds of people's laughter was extremely loud. Even though Zi Chanshan and Su Xiaolian had walked far away, they could still hear their laughter. Qing Luo, that stream is really the excrement of magical beasts? Yan Xiaoyi leaned close to Yiqing Luo as she asked with a grin. All the students pricked up their ears. Yiqing Luo nodded. How would a kind, gentle and honest girl like me lie to her? Devil class's students' faces were filled with black lines. All the students continued to vomit. At this moment, the atmosphere had also gradually lightened up. Luckily, this accident didn't cause any danger to the students. Yiqing Luo took a look at the students from the various academies who were enjoying themselves. Seeing that everyone had completely escaped from danger, she prepared to lead the devil class's students to leave. Before she could even bid farewell to the students, two figures knelt down in front of Yiqing Luo with a thud. Yiqing Luo recognized that this was the girl who wanted to die together with her brother earlier. Student Yiqing Luo, thank you. Thank you for saving my brother, saving our Chen Kuan Academy students. The girl's eyes were red as she looked at Yiqing Luo gratefully. Beside her was her brother, who had just escaped death in the water. The young man who had changed into clean clothes and taken care of himself looked quite handsome. Chen Kuan Academy? Yiqing Luo searched for the name of this school in her heart. Although this academy was a third-tier academy, it was considered one of the best among third-tier academies. This was especially so for students who graduated from Chen Kuan Academy. Not to mention becoming a celebrity in Nirvana realm like the Heavenly Academy. But at the very least they had some small achievements. Universe Academy students immediately walked up and knelt down in rows in front of Yiqing Luo. Many thanks to student Yiqing Luo for lending a helping hand. Our brother Shi's life was saved by you. Chen Kuan Academy will owe you a favor. Chen Kuan Academy had a total of 73 people. At this moment, all of them were kneeling down in front of Yiqing Luo. Looking at those pairs of determined and grateful eyes, Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a smile. She seemed to understand. Why did the Chen Kuan Academy have such a high enrollment rate despite being a third-tier academy? The students of this academy were just like their devil class. It was a collective. Student Yiqing Luo, can I be friends with you? The girl looked at Yiqing Luo in anticipation. Yiqing Luo didn't reply. Instead her vision fell onto the girl's tightly clenched fist, and that pale fingertip. It wasn't hard to tell that the girl was feeling apprehensive and uneasy. Chapter 1588. Of course you can. Towards pure girls, Yiqing Luo had always doted on them. Treat them sincerely. She naturally responded sincerely. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she walked up quickly and helped the pair of siblings up. Little sister, don't be too blindly fond of me, I'm not as good as you think. Yiqing Luo held the girl's hand with both her hands. The person you should thank is yourself. Little Lolita was stunned, not understanding the meaning of Yiqing Luo's words. Yiqing Luo patted the girl's forehead. If it wasn't for you saying to accompany your brother to die, I wouldn't have bothered about this. Little Lolita was even more shocked. Following that, her face turned slightly red as she scratched her head shyly. So student Yiqing Luo is because of me? Bam. A hard slap made the girl hold her head as she cried out in pain. She raised her head as she looked at Yiqing Luo with teary eyes. A person's life is very precious. Don't belittle your own life and don't casually say that you want to die. Yiqing Luo spoke in a serious tone. Have you ever thought that if I didn't make a move earlier and your academy students didn't stop you, what would happen if you really died with your brother in the water? Have you ever thought about your parents? About your classmates, brothers and sisters? Have you ever thought about the people you care about and care about you? The girl's expression gradually turned grave after hearing Yiqing Luo's words. Her cheeks flushed red. Not because of shyness, not because of anger, but because of embarrassment and realization of her own stupidity. Student Yiqing Luo? The girl clenched her fists as her eyelashes were wet. Yiqing Luo placed both her hands on her shoulders as she stared at the girl's reddened eyes and said word by word, "Don't give up your life so easily. I know I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong." Bean-sized tears rolled down from the girl's eyes. She turned around and bowed to her brother as she apologized sincerely. "Brother, I'm sorry made you worried." Looking at the girl and her brother hugging each other tightly. The smile on Yiqing Luo's face grew wider. As for Yiqing Luo's words, it had caused a huge impact on those students present. They looked at Yiqing Luo in a daze. It was as if he was looking at a god that he revered. Such sincerity, such respect. Student Yiqing Luo, thank you. The change in the girl's state of mind made her look even cuter. Little girl, since we're already friends, you don't have to call me classmate. Sounds weird. Yiqing Luo looked at the girl and felt rather astonished at how quickly she understood the meaning of her words. It seemed like this little girl wasn't as simple as she seemed on the surface. Then how about I call you Sister Qing Luo? The girl's eyes sparkled as she asked excitedly. It sounds much better this way. The girl's eyes were filled with smiles as her eyes were clear. Sister Qing Luo, I'm Shiruashi and this is my brother Shiruoyu. Our Universe Academy is in South Tide Continent and after we leave the Blazing Lair, I must treat Sister Qing Luo to a sumptuous meal. The surname? That was rare. Looking at Shiruoyu and Shiruashi, whether it was the way they talked or the way they behaved, it revealed that they were of extraordinary status. From the looks of it, they must be some large family's daughter and young master. Making friends with a sister. The few of them exchanged some conventional greetings. Yiqing Luo then suggested to split up with the rest to complete the mission. Chapter 1589. What kind of joke was that? Doing missions? Would they still have the mood to do missions now? The minute they thought that their opponent was Yiqing Luo, how would they be able to let go and do their missions? At least Yiqing Luo had risked her life to save them. If they were to fight with Yiqing Luo to snatch, wouldn't they be repaying kindness with enmity? More importantly, which one of them was Yiqing Luo's opponent? Looking at everyone's expressions, Yiqing Luo knew what these students were thinking about. Her lips curled up slightly as her voice was calm and indifferent. I saved you not to blackmail you or anything. If you really feel that you can't get over it, then remember that you owe me, Yiqing Luo, a favor and that's enough. Students? Devil class. Pft, ha. Indeed, Yiqing Luo's so-called kindness and generosity was just a casual remark. She had dug a pit long ago and was waiting for those students to fall into it. Favor was the hardest thing to repay. Yiqing Luo ignored the students' dumbstruck expressions as she continued, saving you is one thing and the Academy's competition is another. I hope that all students will not mix the two together. The Academy's competition is not only related to the Academy's reputation and the Academy's future, it is also related to your own reputation and future. The result of this competition will become the reference for the various academies' annual ranking. If you were to give up because of this, your own lives will be ruined. Yiqing Luo's voice paused slightly, giving some time for the students to digest her words. As expected, the expressions of all the students became solemn. They started to ponder over Yiqing Luo's words. This academy's competition wasn't their own competition. It was the academy. It was a competition which represented the entire academy. All of you must remember one sentence. Yiqing Luo's gaze slowly swept past all the students present. That gaze wasn't considered to be passionate, instead it was slightly indifferent. That disdainful look on all living beings, overriding the imposing manner of thousands of people. It made the students' blood boil continuously. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as a smile bloomed on her lips. It was like a dream. Her chilly voice was like spring water, clear and melodious. The biggest respect towards the opponent is to go all out. Every word and sentence struck the hearts of the students. Traces of light appeared on the young faces of the boys and girls. Right? They respected Yiqing Luo, so they should take this academy's competition seriously. If it was because Yiqing Luo had saved them, they would give up on this competition, avoiding the battle with Yiqing Luo. This was not to repay Yiqing Luo for saving his life. But it was contempt towards Yiqing Luo, contempt towards the devil class. Yiqing Luo was a true expert. There was no need for them to hold back at all. The expressions on the faces of the students from the various academies had already regained the vigor and hope that young men and women should have. After a long time, all the students said in unison, "We understand." Yiqing Luo nodded with a smile. Following that, he led the 10 over devil class students behind him and turned to leave. Because of the mutant beast, they had already delayed their rest time. He had to hurry up and find a magic beast for its mana crystal. 7 to 8 academies had been attracted by the stream just now. However, there were still a dozen or so academies, who were still struggling to complete their missions. They had to hurry. Furthermore, no one knew when the dark forces hiding in the dark would appear. The closer it was to the time to leave the fire lair, the possibility of the dark forces appearing in the dark was higher. Chapter 1590. 10 over devil classes students returned to the team. A few elite students immediately went forward as their eyes were filled with worship. "Student Yiqing Luo, you really settled the monster under the stream. You're too incredible." They weren't standing far from each other. They had clearly seen everything that had happened by the stream just now. Their admiration towards Yiqing Luo grew, and they felt extremely fortunate. Before this, they had made the right choice, choosing to leave with Yiqing Luo, so that they could have their fill. Only then could they stand here safe and sound. Thinking of Zi Chanshan, the elite students couldn't help but feel disgusted. They had not expected the number 1 beauty, Zi Chanshan's character, to be so vile. Not only disgusting, it was extremely vicious. When they returned to Heavenly Academy, they must tear off Zi Chanshan's hypocritical mask. "Don't be too happy now, our magic crystals have already fallen behind the other academies, and adding on to the fact that our numbers are less than half, if we don't hurry up, we'll probably be at the bottom in this competition." Yiqing Luo smiled faintly, without a single trace of happiness from being praised. He was calm and composed, unperturbed by both praise and humiliation. This made those students feel at ease. Just at this moment, a few chaotic footsteps were heard from behind. Yiqing Luo and the others turned around. 10 over elite students from Intermediate Profound Class 2 jogged towards them. "Madam Qing Luo, please let me return to the team. It's all Zi Chanshan, that slut's fault, blinding our eyes. Madam Qing Luo, please give us one more chance. We will listen to your instructions obediently and work hard for the Academy's glory." Intermediate Profound Class 2 students begged in a low voice. Their words were filled with sincerity. But Yiqing Luo didn't miss the disdain and helpless unwillingness in those students' eyes. This group of students got whatever they wanted in Heavenly Academy. Because of Yiqing Luo, they were demoted to Intermediate Profound Class 2 students. Their reputation was also lost because of Yiqing Luo. How could they possibly be willing to submit to Yiqing Luo? But a man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. They had to make use of Devil Class's power to leave the blazing flame nest alive. That was the most important thing. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a cold smile, as she looked at those students with a smile yet not a smile. Just as the students were about to give up in fear, suddenly, a light voice drifted into his ears. "All right." The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 were instantly stunned, as if he couldn't believe his ears. Yiqing Luo, she actually agreed? Immediately after, a trace of ridicule appeared in the eyes of the Intermediate Profound Class 2 students. He was secretly laughing at Yiqing Luo's ignorance and waste. At the end of the day, the students of the Devil Class still had to rely on their own abilities. They had long known that Yiqing Luo was waiting for them to return. They wouldn't lower themselves. At least they could regain their sovereignty from Yiqing Luo's hands. But Yiqing Luo's smile was brilliant, extremely dazzling. "We don't keep trash. If you are of no use, I will not hesitate to throw you into the magical beast's stomach." The Intermediate Profound Class 2 students' faces turned pale as a venomous glint flashed past their eyes. Yiqing Luo saw everything. With a cold laugh, he raised his hand and signaled for the group to leave. Behind him, Mo Han Shang wanted to go up and express his thanks several times. But there was never a good opportunity. He stood there hesitantly. After some time he plucked up his courage and was about to chase up. Suddenly he heard Yiqing Luo's smiling voice coming from the meadow. Chapter 1591. When Emohan Shang heard that, his heart twitched fiercely. Soon after, his heart calmed down. So Yiqing Luo had been paying attention to him. She also knew what he was hesitating about. With Yiqing Luo's words, he was relieved. In the following period of time, Yiqing Luo led a bunch of students as they charged towards the magical beasts without stopping. Of course, Yiqing Luo had gathered the main force on the students from Intermediate Profound Class 2. These students were quite talented and strong. It wasn't much of a problem to deal with these magical beasts. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 were so tired that they were panting and sweating profusely. There were also quite a number of students who had been scratched by demonic beasts. On the other hand, the students of the Devil class. There was not even a drop of sweat on his body. Their hearts were extremely unbalanced. But he didn't dare to open his mouth and ask for Yiqing Luo's permission. Although Yiqing Luo had treated the Intermediate Profound Class 2 students as coolies. However, he did not treat them badly in terms of food and drinks. For the sake of these food and water bags, the students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 had to swallow their anger. The route chosen by Yiqing Luo. They were all in the direction where the magical beasts had appeared. However, after 4 hours, Yiqing Luo looked at her space pocket, which was filled to the brim with magic crystals, and took another look at the accumulated points in her pocket. At this time he had accumulated 430 points. It was far from enough. Yiqing Luo took a look at the students who were still trembling with the magical beasts and decided to split into two. Long Yunzhan, Tong Ziqing, Dong Huanglang, and Qi Yijing were to lead the students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 to fight magical beasts and obtain magic crystals. Whereas she brought a bunch of Devil class students to ambush the students from the other academies. They were quite lucky. They had just split into two groups. At a corner of the dense forest ahead, Yiqing Luo had found an academy student. A team of about 100 people. It was probably because he had been attacking the demonic beasts without any rest. Because Yiqing Luo and the others had already cleared all the nearby magical beasts. After the students passed through the dense forest and found that there was no danger, they decided to rest for an hour before continuing. This break gave Yiqing Luo and the others a chance. A group of lunatics swarmed forward. The students didn't even have the chance to react. The interspatial bag had already fallen into Yiqing Luo's hands. Yiqing Luo only took away their magic crystals. Then he returned the interspatial pouches to them. Go. Squat down an entire academy. Yiqing Luo waved her hand and her heroic spirit soared to the sky. Devil classes students expressed, following boss to do this kind of sneaky things is really 2F** king exciting. Hence, the entire flame lair was in such a state. A team of 50 or so people killed every magical beast they saw. When the students saw the demonic beasts, it was as if they had seen meat on the chopping board. One by one they rushed forward. That was savage. That was terrifying. Then he looked at the other group of 50-odd people. They came and went without a trace. Hiding in the dark, they swarmed toward an academy the moment they saw one. Those who hit others hit others. Those who were fighting for space pockets were fighting for space pockets. That was savage. That was terrifying. As a result, when the other academies heard the news, they even trembled in fear as they walked. They were afraid that in the next second, a group of students would rush out and beat them up. This situation continued until the sun gradually rose. Chapter 1592. Yiqing Luo took out her space pocket. When they saw the points on it, the students of Devil class were all stunned. A number was imprinted on the interspatial pocket. 1,640 points. Actually over 1,000. We're definitely going to win. We're definitely going to win this time. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 suddenly felt that it was worth it to work so hard for half a day. As long as they were victorious in this academy competition, they would be able to win. They might even be able to return to High Profound Class 2. Don't celebrate too early. Yiqing Luo's expression was indifferent as she kept the space bag. 5,000 magical beasts? We've only obtained 1,640 magical beasts. That's a sure win. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 disagreed. With so many academies, there are still over 3,000 magic crystals left. If each academy gets a bit, it would be impossible to surpass the amount of magic crystals we have now. Yiqing Luo scoffed. His disdainful gaze swept across the student. What do you mean by this? The Intermediate Profound Class 2 student's face darkened. revealing some anger. We've ambushed more than a dozen academies and robbed more than 1,000 mana crystals. Do you think those academies will let us go? Yiqing Luo sneered as her lips twitched. There's a huge possibility. These students will choose another way to suppress the Heavenly Academy. The intermediate profound class 2 student opened his mouth and only managed to utter a sentence after a while. What method? Cooperate with Nantao Academy. Yiqing Luo stared at the eyes of the intermediate profound class 2 students, as she spoke word by word. This was not entirely impossible. It was her. Then, an academy squatted down several times and snatched away the fruits of their hard work that they had painstakingly collected for several hours. She would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. Apart from the few academies that he had saved previously, the other academies would definitely unite to let the Heavenly Academy have a taste of bitterness after the ruckus caused by them. And their backer. It was second only to the Heavenly Academy, Nantao Academy. They would unite and hand over all their magical crystals to Nantao Academy. If they were to gather with Nantao Academy to fight against the Heavenly Academy, the Heavenly Academy only had over 100 students. How could it compare to a dozen academies? But this is an academy competition. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 raised their doubts. If he handed over his magic crystal, wouldn't that cause their academy's ranking to fall to rock bottom? If 1 or 2 academies didn't get a single magic crystal, it would be a disgrace. But what if 10 over academies or even all the academies don't have any magic crystals? Yiqing Luo's brows rose. The Intermediate Profound Class 2 students no longer had any doubts. The other students immediately panicked. Then, Bosching Luo, what should we do? Before they unite, snatch more magic crystals. Yiqing Luo replied. But the various academies are working together to snatch our magic crystals. The Intermediate Profound Class 2 students were extremely worried. Yiqing Luo smiled indifferently. I am guarding the space pocket, no one can snatch it. Where did his confidence come from? The students' gazes all fell onto Yiqing Luo. When he saw that pair of enchanting eyes that were suffused with a cold light, he felt a chill run down his spine. Their hearts tightened. Fine, they admit it. Other than Yiqing Luo, there was indeed no one else who could guard the space pocket. All right, continue to split up. Yiqing Luo saw that everyone had almost finished their rations and waved her hand as she gave the order. The students mourned. But upon recalling what Yiqing Luo said earlier. Chapter 1593. Things were indeed as Yiqing Luo had predicted. Over 10 academies, after experiencing devil classes' continuous harassment, might as well go all the way and directly cooperate, choosing to seek refuge from Nantao Academy. Anyway, even if they went back to fight for the magic crystals, eventually it would fall into devil classes' hands. Why not voluntarily give up the magic crystals to Nantao Academy, so that Nantao Academy could suppress Profound Academy's prestige? By the time they left the Blazing Flame Lair, the 10 over academies would then jointly plead with Ghost Martial Artist, pushing all the blame onto Yiqing Luo, and pleading with Ghost Martial Artist to cancel the results of the competition, to use it as a reference for the academy's annual ranking. Yiqing Luo and the rest searched one round but didn't find any academy. Qing Luo, have they all gone into hiding? Yan Shaoyi looked at the quiet surroundings. These students are really smart, knowing that they can't beat them, so they took a detour. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. If we find traces of Nantao Academy, we will probably be able to find the other academy's students. Seeking for backing so quickly? Yan Shaoyi hugged her head. Then what should we do? Don't tell me we really have to go head-to-head with those few academies. She was extremely confident in Devil Class's students' ability. But the opponents were over 10 academies. And they were all outstanding students from the various academies. The pressure was really huge. Who said we have to go head-to-head? Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes at her. I'm not interested in wasting time and energy. Who knew when they would go head-to-head? Would the dark forces take the opportunity to enter? Then let's find out Nantao Academy's whereabouts first and see how many academies are cooperating with Nantao Academy before making a decision. Yiqing Luo waved her hand with a casual look. The group of 50 over people scuttled swiftly in the forest. They hadn't discovered anything. The entire sky above the Blazing Flame Lair was surrounded by balls of extremely thick black chi. From the looks of it, it was extremely horrifying. In front of the Profound Light Mirror, Ghost Martial Artist and the few instructors had a panoramic view of everything that happened in the Blazing Flame Lair. Looking at the Profound Light Mirror, the figures of Yi Qing Luo and the others were reflected. The expressions on the faces of the instructors had long since changed from the initial shock to the final one of being used to it. This devil class was always creating surprises and surprises for them all the time. Seeing how Yi Qing Luo dealt with the strange beast, easily subduing the hearts of the various academy students, they were only left with admiration for Yi Qing Luo. Not only was this girl's strength outstanding, but she was also very quick-witted. The Heavenly Academy was able to accept such a student. He wondered if it was the good fortune he had accumulated in his previous life. The few instructors were clicking their tongues, praising the devil class. Gui Wu's sleeve suddenly moved. The scene within the profound light mirror suddenly stopped. "What's wrong?" Zouamo walked over and asked. "Something has happened." Gui Wu's sinister eyes narrowed as he fixed his gaze on a spot on the profound light mirror. On the screen, it was Yi Qing Luo leading a group of students, gradually approaching an academy. And not too far away from Yi Qing Luo at a corner, it was a black aura that lingered like smoke. That black aura could only be seen with the naked eye. It made people unhappy. Zouamo had also noticed the black chi, and his expression immediately darkened. "That thing actually provoked us. I'm afraid the students are in danger." When the few instructors heard that, they had a dazed expression, not knowing what had happened. They looked at each other in dismay. It was rare to see Gui Wu and Zouamo's faces sunk. The matter in the blazing flame lair must be extremely serious. Chapter 1594. We can't create panic among the students. Gui Wu's deep cold voice brought along an irresistible pressure. "Young Master Amo, let's go in first and investigate the source of that thing before making a decision." Zouamo's brows rose. "I have the same intention." Gui Wu took a deep look at the profound light mirror, at that glaring black chi. Suddenly he fished out a space bag from his bosom and drew some profound light mirror chi. "Pay attention to the movement of the black chi at all times. If you discover any strange movement or attack the students, immediately inform me through the profound light mirror." Gui Wu looked solemnly at the four instructors. The instructors tensed up as they stood upright. "Yes." Gui Wu and Zouamo exchanged glances and didn't waste any more time. In a split second, the two of them turned into a black and white afterimage, disappearing in front of the instructor's eyes. Yi Qing Luo and the rest finally caught a lone student in the academy. 10 over of them sharpened their blades and prepared to attack. But Yi Qing Luo suddenly raised her palm and made a pause gesture. Devil class's students had long formed the habit of obeying orders. The moment she raised her palm, 50 over students hid themselves properly and stopped their attacks. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as she glanced sideways. Her slightly knitted brows gradually twisted into a bundle. This was the feeling of profound yin qi? Ever since the profound heart jade returned to her body, Yi Qing Luo's sensitivity towards profound yin qi was getting sharper and sharper. If she didn't sense wrongly, she seemed to have sensed the profound yin qi's presence earlier. It was people from the dark forces. Had the dark forces made their move? Yi Qing Luo vigilantly released her own perception and spoke out in the mercenary group badge. "Everyone be careful, release your strongest perception and try your best to avoid danger." Devil class's students reflexively acted according to Yi Qing Luo's command. "Qing Luo, what happened?" Yan Xiaoyi's expression turned grave as she carefully stuck to Yi Qing Luo's side, looking around vigilantly. "There's profound yin qi." Yi Qing Luo clenched her fists. "All of you must be careful. If you're controlled by the profound yin qi, you know the consequences." Recalling the last time Long Yunjian was controlled by the profound yin qi, he actually made a move on Yi Qing Luo and stabbed Yan Xiaoyi. The devil class students felt their hair stand on end. Everyone shivered and expressed their determination in the metal. "Don't worry, my lord. We will definitely stand strong." Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes. "We'll talk about it after you've done it." After warning the students of the devil class, Yi Qing Luo then focused her attention on her perception. She could clearly sense that there was an extremely dense aura of mysterious yin qi in the vicinity. However, no matter how hard she tried, they were unable to ascertain exactly where the mysterious yin qi that they had sensed was coming from. He glanced at the students who were resting in front of him, not moving at all. Yi Qing Luo's heart suddenly tightened. A thought flashed across his mind. She clenched her fists. "Stay here and don't move. I'll go take a look." As soon as he finished speaking, he transformed into a shadow and merged into the air. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of a student from a nearby academy. Just as he approached, Yi Qing Luo saw it. These students were surrounded by a faint layer of mysterious yin qi. That mysterious yin aura was gradually spreading. There were even some mysterious yin qi which directly enveloped those students. As for those students, their eyes were shut as they didn't move at all, not knowing if they were dead or alive. Chapter 1595. What was going on? How did the profound yin qi seep in? Furthermore, why did it feel so strange? Yi Qing Luo's glower flame fan flipped as she condensed her profound qi, directly dispersing the profound yin qi which was climbing onto the students' bodies. That profound yin qi seemed to have its own consciousness. Like smoke, it formed into a human shape in midair as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it pounced towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo's expression turned cold as she swept up a burst of profound ray from her backhand. A burst of powerful profound energy was like thousands of sharp blades, as it sliced that profound yin qi's human shape into pieces. However, this profound yin qi gathered once again. Countless wisps of mysterious yin qi rose from all directions. Like black smoke, it surged and surged as it permeated the surroundings. This was absolutely not normal. Profound yin qi was based on the dark force's own yin qi and profound qi, gathering into an aura. How could there possibly be such a dense profound yin qi appearing? To create such a profound yin qi's aura, it required at least 50 and above dark forces cultivators. Dark forces had put in a lot of effort to stop her? Impossible. The battle between the Imperial Palace and the dark forces had not ended yet. The Imperial Palace was still harassing the dark forces. The dark forces could at most send 300 to 400 people to deal with them in the flame nest. Adding up the various academy students, there were at least 1,500 over people. Even if they deducted those students who were unwilling to cooperate, there were at least 1,000 people. In terms of numbers, they had a huge advantage. If the dark forces made another 10 over people to release their profound yin qi to deal with them, their brains must be spoiled to do this, right? The dense profound yin qi which was like a black fog seemed to be extremely interested in Yi Qing Luo. It kept rubbing against each other as it tried to charge towards Yi Qing Luo. The profound yin qi has become so rampant? The students of Devil class who were hiding in the dark naturally saw this scene. Their expressions were stunned as they stared dumbfoundedly at Yi Qing Luo who was enveloped by the profound yin qi. Why are you still in a daze? Do it. Find the source of the profound yin qi. The glower flame fan in Yi Qing Luo's hands had not stopped as it kept on waving, sweeping up streams of air waves, dissipating the surrounding profound yin qi. When the Devil class students received the order, they swarmed forward. Once there were more people. Under the circumstances where everyone was on high alert, there was no way to launch a sneak attack with this mysterious yin qi. Finally, under the pressure of a student's relentless pursuit, the mysterious yin qi drilled into the ground. The entire ground quaked and shook a few times. And then, the mysterious yin qi disappeared without a trace. Ran away. Kitty Lee moved her ears and nose, but she didn't smell that disgusting smell. He escaped pretty fast. Kitty Lee can't even smell that smell. The dark forces have indeed made their move. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as her gaze turned to one side. Lu, take a look at these students first and see how their situation is. The other brothers, go search around the surroundings to see where the source of this profound yin qi is. Baiming Lulu picked up the medical kit before jumping and squatting in front of the students. Just as he was about to reach out and touch the student's wrist to feel his pulse, suddenly the student with closed eyes grabbed Baiming Lulu's wrist with a backhand. Baiming Lulu screamed and tried to push away the student's hand. But that student's grip was extremely tight. Following that, he opened his tightly shut eyes. Chapter 1596. Lulu. A clear voice was heard and a figure dashed to Baiming Lulu's side. The young man's slender fingers locked onto that student's hand which was pressing on Baiming Lulu's wrist and forcefully pulled that student's hand down. Liancheng. Baiming Lulu's wrist finally broke free from that student as she was so frightened that she burrowed into Baiming Liancheng's arms. What's going on? Baiming Liancheng hugged Baiming Lulu tightly as he stared at the other students in front of him and frowned. Madam Qing Luo, these students' eyes. Baiming Lulu's shriek had already made Yi Qing Luo's attention towards this side. Hearing Baiming Liancheng's words, Yi Qing Luo's figure stretched out as she speedily shifted to the side of the both of them. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes and met the other student's eyes. She saw that student with a pair of empty and lifeless eyes. In his eyes, there were wisps of black qi lingering around. That was profound yin qi. This student's eyes were completely shrouded by a ball of black mist. No wonder Baiming Lulu cried out in fright when she saw it. Profound yin qi in this student's eyes. Could it be that this was a greedy person who had signed a soul contract with the dark forces? This thought had just flashed past her mind when Yiqing Luo immediately denied it. A cultivator who had signed a soul contract with the dark forces. He was making use of the profound yin qi to achieve his own motive. And not like now. His eyes were filled with profound yin qi. But this person had long stopped breathing. Take a look at the other students. Yiqing Luo stared at those eyes which were filled with profound yin qi, and after some time, she immediately opened her mouth to give an order. Not long later, Yin Shaoyi came back with an answer. This should be a third-tier academy. There's a total of 52 students and all of them have stopped breathing. Not only that, these students who had stopped breathing could still do the same as what they did to Baiming Lulu earlier, stretching out their hands to grab them. Then they opened their eyes. Without exception, their eyes were filled with profound yin qi. The entire atmosphere started to turn strange. What on earth are the dark forces trying to do? Yin Shaoyi's slender brows creased tightly as she stared at those pairs of empty eyes on the ground, feeling goosebumps. No matter how strong she was usually, deep down she was still a woman. Shadow, have you discovered anything? Yiqing Luo's gaze looked outside the crowd, at the pink dumpling which was still wandering around. Mo Ying heard the voice and stopped in her tracks. She turned her head stiffly. There was not a trace of emotion on that extremely sweet but extremely expressionless face. His lifeless eyes were even more empty than those of the dead students on the ground. It was a horrifying sight to behold. There's a formation. Mo Ying's red lips opened and closed, her soft voice spitting out 3 words. Array formation? Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly cleared up. That's right. It was an array formation. The mystical yin energy that could only be condensed by 50 dark organizations combined. And this third-tier academy student had died mysteriously. It was all because of the array formation. The formation of the dark forces. Have you found the array core? Yiqing Luo immediately asked. Although Mo Ying usually had a poker face, she didn't have much of a presence. But she was more attentive. It was precisely because she had no sense of existence. Only then would she be able to investigate the surrounding situation in the shortest time possible. Chapter 1597. *CK. What kind of heaven-defying formation was this? How come she had never heard of such a formation? Cough cough. In his mind, Old Man Song coughed a few times. This array, the Nirvana realm doesn't have it, the upper realm doesn't have it, but the dark forces can have it. *CK. To be able to provide an endless supply of dark forces energy, then what's the point of me fighting with them? Yiqing Luo exploded. She was human. People with flesh and blood. Fighting against the monsters of the dark forces was already an incredible feat. Those monsters were even using hacks. Then how was she supposed to fight? That was the rhythm of a suicide mission. Could she just turn around and run? There are not many people in the dark forces, but even the upper realm is very afraid of the dark forces because of the forbidden spells and secret techniques of the dark forces. Old Man Song explained, this array formation was created using the dark forces' unique forbidden curse. It indeed looks savage and inhumane, but this kind of forbidden curse array formation is an existence that cannot be tolerated by the heavens. Doesn't that little lowly already know the direction of the formation eye? As long as the eye of the formation is destroyed, the formation will naturally be broken. What kind of solution was this? Destroy the formation eye. Could break any array formation, okay? She had read quite a lot, so she couldn't be fooled. What I mean is that the formation core of this formation is different from other formations. Other formations have barriers and self-protection abilities, but the formation core of a formation created by a forbidden spell is extremely weak. As long as you approach it, the formation core will be destroyed. Sensing Yiqing Luo's inner agitation swelling up, Old Man Song violently coughed a few times and no longer kept him in suspense. It seemed like he could only destroy the formation core. Shadow, where is the eye of the array? Yiqing Luo took a deep breath to ease the emotions in her heart. Mo Ying was about to speak. Suddenly, he heard a complacent and shameless laughter coming from behind him. Isn't this a student from the devil class? This voice made Yiqing Luo's head hurt. Zi Qianqian, this haunting woman. Why did he bump into Zi Qianqian everywhere he went? Everyone looked toward the source of the voice. Zi Qianqian was dressed in a green academy uniform, looking like a proud plum flower that stood alone in the world. Beside her was Su Xiaolian, who had also changed into a green academy uniform. Yiqing Luo wasn't unfamiliar with this academy uniform. Therefore he only glanced at it. Yiqing Luo knew which academy Zi Chanshan and Su Xiaolian had collaborated with. That academy was Phoenix Academy. As expected, behind Zi Chanshan were approximately 140 over students, following behind Ji Tsang Tian and Lan Ling Nua in a majestic manner. He left valiantly and in high spirits. He walked like the wind. Zi Chanshan and Su Xiaolian approached together. He looked at the corpses on the ground that had long since stopped breathing. The two little beauties were so scared that their faces turned pale. She immediately ignored her demeanor and screamed out loud. Zi Chanshan shouted. Ji Tsang Tian took quick steps forward. After seeing the corpse, Ji Tsang Tian's eyes actually revealed a wild joy and smile. Devil class. You all actually killed the students from other academies just for the magic crystals. Zi Chanshan directly put a big hat on Yiqing Luo. When he saw Zi Chanshan appear, he was shocked. Yiqing Luo had already guessed the current situation. These students, Zi Chanshan would definitely think of ways and means to push the crime of killing onto devil class. Heavenly Academy would also be disqualified from the competition because of this. Heavenly Academy was not only at the bottom among the other academies. Chapter 1598. The students of the Heavenly Academy are really savage. Ji Tsang Tian laughed sinisterly as he walked up. All the students in my Celestial Phoenix Academy have seen it clearly. A few students from the Celestial Phoenix Academy looked at the dead students. Boss Ji, these are students from the Wind Vein Academy. All dead? Ji Tsang Tian casually asked. The students of the Celestial Phoenix Academy immediately nodded. They are all dead. The viciousness in Ji Tsang Tian's eyes gradually expanded. He sneered as he looked at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo, what else do you have to quibble about? You're slandering me. Devil class's student's face turned black as he pointed at Ji Tsang Tian and shouted angrily, when we came here, these people were already dead, so what has it got to do with us? Ji Tsang Tian gave a cold harumph. There are so many pairs of eyes watching, how could it be fake? Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand to block the devil class's students as she stepped forward. Her squinting eyes rose slightly. It was an invisible aura that was being released. This made Ji Tsang Tian and the others' hearts tremble inexplicably. Ji Tsang Tian's body tensed up as his expression turned stiff. He turned his head and looked at the 100 or so brothers behind him. He took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. I can't let this bitch have another chance to make a comeback. He couldn't let this bitch destroy everything he had. I can't be afraid of this bitch. Ji Tsang Tian kept on warning himself in his heart. Yiqing Luo's vision lightly swept past Ji Tsang Tian, Zi Chanshan and the others. Her gaze was calm and extremely cold. It landed on everyone. It was like a thin layer of ice sweeping across their skin. An inexplicable chill ran down his spine. What a coincidence that Celestial Phoenix Academy has come. Yiqing Luo said with a smile. It was indeed a coincidence. Only then did they realize that the students of the Wind Bloodline Academy were all dead. Ji Tsang Tian led his bunch of brothers as he rushed over. If not for the fact that he was a student of the Wind Bloodline Academy, he would have died to the profound Yin Qi. Yiqing Luo even suspected if these students were killed by Ji Tsang Tian and the others, intentionally framing her. However, based on the current situation, even if the Wind Vein Academy wasn't killed by the Celestial Phoenix Academy, that was also related to Ji Tsang Tian. That time when Ji Tsang Tian joined the Mercenary Association, his name was removed from the Mercenary Association and the entire Ji family was blacklisted by the Mercenary Association. All these were because of Yiqing Luo, which caused him to have no way to make a comeback. At that critical moment, Ji Tsang Tian would be targeted by the Dark Forces. He could even make deals with the Dark Forces. These were all within Yiqing Luo's expectations. However, earlier when they were beside the strange beasts, Yiqing Luo didn't sense any profound yin qi from Ji Tsang Tian. At this moment, close contact. Yiqing Luo had not sensed any profound yin qi from Ji Tsang Tian. What a coincidence. Of course it was a coincidence. If it wasn't a coincidence, how could I have caught you killing the students of the Wind Vein Academy and exposed the true face of a vicious woman like you? Ji Tsang Tian puffed out his chest, trying his best to make himself look even more awe-inspiring. Behind her, the 140-plus students of the Celestial Phoenix Academy immediately raised their arms and shouted in unison, Expose the true face of this vicious woman. I'll expose the true face of this vicious woman. Their voices were extremely loud and clear in unison. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. These people were apparently trying to lure the students from the other academies over. Chapter 1599. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her lips curled into a cold arc which didn't look like a smile. Her expression was calm, without the slightest hint of panic. Everything is based on evidence. You want to make the Heavenly Academy a scapegoat? You've underestimated the Heavenly Academy. She held on to the devouring flame fan and lightly waved it. She raised her brows and said, "Then what if I say that this person was killed by your Celestial Phoenix Academy?" You think? How many people would believe the words of someone like you, who plunders other academies' magical crystals, when you say that? I have a student from the Heavenly Academy who personally identified you. Jitsang Tian had long made full preparations. Totally not afraid of Yiqing Luo's retaliation. Yiqing Luo's gaze fell onto Zi Chanshan and Su Xiaolian. Su Xiaolian was supporting Zi Chanshan, and when she sensed Yiqing Luo's line of sight, she immediately stood in front of Zi Chanshan and forced herself to speak out. "Student Yiqing Luo, it's a fact that you killed the Wind Vein Academy students because of the magic crystals. This matter concerns more than 50 lives. Even if it's for the sake of the Heavenly Academy, we will absolutely not watch you commit the wrong things time and time again." Yes, more than 50 lives are at stake. Zi Chanshan looked at those students lying on the ground as he sighed softly, as though he was extremely regretful. "Student Yiqing Luo, follow us to meet Gui Wu." The moment Zi Chanshan's voice fell, Yiqing Luo's originally calm and tranquil expression suddenly surfaced a layer of coldness. Those torch-like eyes were like sharp blades that pierced straight into Zi Chanshan's heart. "Meet Master Gui Wu? That's a good idea." Her voice was extremely cold, as if it was wrapped in a layer of frost. Zi Chanshan was overwhelmed with shock. How could Yiqing Luo possibly agree to meet Gui Wu? Had Yiqing Luo found out about something? Zi Chanshan's eyes were filled with fear as he met Yiqing Luo's enchanting eyes. How could she possibly let Yiqing Luo meet Gui Wu? If they were to meet Gui Wu, wouldn't the meticulous plan that she and Feng Ling had devised be ruined? They could not let Yiqing Luo leave the blazing flame nest. He could not drag the ghost martial artist into this. She must make Yiqing Luo die here before the Academy's competition. At this moment, the huge commotion created by the Celestial Phoenix Academy. This attracted the attention of many nearby academies. Not long after, the students of the 3 academies walked over. "What's going on?" one of the academies asked. Jitsang Tian naturally added oil and vinegar as he pushed everything onto Heavenly Academy. "I heard someone died." The students from the 3 academies were stunned. A student from one of the academies immediately went to check on the student from the Wind Vein Academy. Then he realized that the students of the Wind Vein Academy had indeed stopped breathing. His face turned pale with fright. They were the elites chosen by the various academies. Regardless of talent or family background, they were both extremely powerful. Although Gui Wujiang's words this time were a little harsh. He even said that he wouldn't care about their lives. But these students understood very well in their hearts. Even in the Jianghu, the ghost martial artist's position was highly respected. It was also impossible for him to watch as his students died in the flame nest. They had always harbored such thoughts. But now that he had seen a student die, he couldn't help but sigh. The fear in the students' hearts was completely unleashed. Chapter 1600. No. Impossible. A clear and melodious female voice suddenly rang out. Following that, a petite figure emerged from the 300 over students and ran towards Yiqing Luo. Little she. Yiqing Luo saw the little girl who had pounced into her arms, and her lips unconsciously curled into a smile. The current Yiqing Luo was no longer cold and aloof. Coincidentally, among the 3 academies who had rushed over, one of them was the Universe Academy which Yiqing Luo had saved by the riverside. Sister Qing Luo will not kill people for magic crystals. Sister Qing Luo respects life the most. She stared furiously at Jitsang Tian. Her intuition told her. This man named Jitsang Tian was definitely not an upright person. Jitsang Tian's expression sunk slightly. He had asked Celestial Phoenix Academy students to create a huge commotion. It was to completely seal off Yiqing Luo's escape route. He had not expected that he had attracted Devil Class's helper instead. What academy student? When did he have such a good relationship with Yiqing Luo? Ji Tian sized up Shi Ruoxi's uniform. Immediately following that, a tall figure blocked Ji Tian's line of sight. Shi Ruoyu stood upright as he stood in front of Ji Tian. Student Ji Tian, everything must be based on evidence. If you don't have any evidence, then don't keep on slandering Heavenly Academy and slandering Devil Class. Immediately following that, 70 over students walked out from the group and followed Shi Ruoyu as they stood on Yiqing Luo's side. Good. Universe Academy, since you want to be Heavenly Academy's helper, then the Wind Vein Academy student's death is definitely related to you. The both of you are in cahoots. Ji Tian was ignored by Universe Academy students as his anger surged. In the past when Blue Dragon Mercenary Group was still around, whoever saw him, wouldn't they address him respectfully as group leader Ji? But now, a small third-tier academy also dared to look down on him. Ji Tian's eyes were filled with viciousness as he turned his head and called out to his brothers, "Find me Gui Wu. Let Gui Wu handle this matter." Student Ji. Zi Chanshan's heart trembled as he immediately spoke out, trying to persuade Ji Tian. Before she could speak, she heard a flirtatious voice interrupting her. "Brother Tsangqian is right, the students of the Wind Vein Academy died in the blazing flame lair, whether it was the doing of the Devil Class or not. Once we find Master Gui Wu, everything will naturally be clear." Lan Ling Nua walked out flirtatiously as her petite body covered Ji Tian's body. Lan Ling Nua hadn't dressed up during the past few days in the flame lair. She hadn't dared to appear in front of her classmates. But today, seeing Zi Chanshan pestering Ji Tian non-stop, and even acting coquettishly towards Ji Tian several times, Lan Ling Nua could no longer endure it. She was the #1 beauty of the Eastern continent. She was the princess of the East continent. Even if she didn't like Ji Tian. But Ji Tian was already her man. She would never allow any woman to snatch her man away. Sister Nua. The minute Ji Tian saw Lan Ling Nua, his expression instantly turned gentle. He stretched out his long arm and pulled Lan Ling Nua into his embrace. "Aren't you feeling unwell? Why don't you rest more? Such a huge matter has happened, how can I rest in peace?" Lan Ling Nua used a gentle tone to reply. Feeling the concern from Sister Nua, Ji Tian's heart instantly felt a warm current brushing past. He tightened his arms as he laughed softly. All right, Brother Tian will settle this matter immediately, so that my Sister Nua can rest in peace." Lan Ling Nua pouted coquettishly as she looked at Ji Tian shyly. Chapter 1601. As Lan Ling Nua said that, she didn't forget to throw a provocative gaze towards Zi Chanshan. "Don't you know whose man he is and dare to snatch him away? Who do you think you are?" Zi Chanshan's face instantly turned pale, and immediately following that, it turned steely green and then black. That exquisite face revealed a twisted malevolent look. Zi Chanshan's fingers locked onto Su Xiaoyan's wrist as she suppressed the anger in her heart. "Goddess Chanshan, you must bear with it. Don't bother about what that coquettish fox wants to do. As long as we drag the time and lure all the students here, our mission will be completed." Su Xiaoyan comforted her softly. "Just a little while more and we will be able to watch Yiqing Luo die in pain. Just bear with it for a little while more." Zi Chanshan took a deep breath. What kind of person did that coquettish fox treat her? Zi Chanshan asked. A man like Ji Tian who had no ambition, no ability, was fit to enter her eyes? A man who could make her, Zi Chanshan, take a fancy to. Other than Nangong Firen, there was no one else. But Zi Chanshan had just calmed herself down in her heart. She saw Ji Tian sending someone to look for Gui Wu under Lan Ling Nua's persuasion. How could Zi Chanshan allow her plan to fail at the last moment? She could only head up and block Ji Tian. "Student Ji, Master Gui Wu said before the competition ends, we will absolutely not be able to find Gui Wu and absolutely not be able to leave the blazing nest. Now is a matter of life and death. Any other rules are all fake." Lan Ling Nua pushed Zi Chanshan's body away as she revealed a smile which she thought was peerlessly beautiful. "This sister, could it be that just because the person who killed the students is from Heavenly Academy, you want to absolve Heavenly Academy?" "If I wanted to absolve Heavenly Academy, I wouldn't be standing here right now." Zi Chanshan suppressed her anger as she looked coldly at Lan Ling Nua. "On the other hand, Student Lan, you kept persuading Student Ji to look for Master Gui Wu. I'm afraid you've received some benefits from other academies and intentionally want Celestial Phoenix Academy to break the competition's rules to be eliminated?" You're talking rubbish. I wholeheartedly care for Big Brother Tsangtian. How could I possibly cause Celestial Phoenix Academy to be eliminated? Lan Ling Nua's face instantly flushed red as she held onto Ji Tsangtian's arm. Brother Tsangtian, look at her. Student Z. Ji Tsangtian grumbled as he stared at Zi Chanshan and immediately turned around to coax Lan Ling Nua. The devil class students who were watching from afar expressed, "Children fighting for a man, what a great show. If they fought even more fiercely, this show would be even more exciting." Zi Chanshan was stared at by Ji Tsangtian, causing Zi Chanshan's pride as the #1 beauty to suffer a heavy blow. Her looks and her abilities were clearly above Lan Ling Nua's. Why was Ji Tsangtian's vision always on Lan Ling Nua? Goddess Chanshan? Su Xiaolian could feel the rage in Zi Chanshan's heart surging. He was about to open his mouth to persuade Zi Chanshan. However, he heard the sound of messy footsteps coming from all directions. The students of the various academies gathered and walked over. The moment Mo Han Shang saw the situation of the confrontation, he took a look at Ji Tsangtian and Zi Chanshan. Finally his gaze fell onto the corpses all over the ground. Students died? The various academy students were all stunned. Some students even specially went over to confirm. After they found out that those students had indeed stopped breathing, their faces were filled with shock and astonishment. Chapter 1602. Yiqing Luo had yet to reply. Su Xiaolian was the first to reply. Devil class students killed 52 students from Wind Vein Academy in order to snatch the magic crystals. When the students from various academies heard that, they all looked towards Yiqing Luo's direction in disbelief. Following that, the other academies also heard this sentence. What? Killing people for the magic crystals? Devil class is too arrogant. They even dared to kill people. We must report this matter to Master Gui Wu. This kind of vicious and cruel academy should be expelled from the academy forever. Right. We must report this to Master Gui Wu, to the main courtyard. Heavenly Academy is too much. 1,500 over students were gathered in one hall. Just one sentence from each of them could overturn the entire blazing lair. However, the devil class, which was condemned by the masses, remained silent on the spot. Not a single sound was heard and there was no expression on their faces. It was like they didn't listen to anyone's words at all. Devil class, what's with your attitude? Did you really think that you can do anything just because you performed well during the training? A few of the academy students were already extremely dissatisfied with Yiqing Luo. Especially, there were at least 17 to 18 academies which had their magic crystals stolen by devil class. Now seeing devil class being involved in such a big matter, all of them couldn't wait to step on it a few times to vent the anger in their hearts. Cough. One must know that there were only 28 academies who entered the blazing lair for training. There were 17 to 18 academies which had been robbed. The remaining academies, if it wasn't for the fact that they reacted fast enough to seek cooperation from Nantao Academy, they would probably have been robbed by devil class. One devil class, 50 to 60 people. But they had robbed one after another. The maximum number of people was 300, at least 50 academies. Devil class's ability was indeed very strong. But it was different now. Their various academies were all gathered together. 1,000 over students, why would they be afraid of a 50 to 60 people devil class? Especially when devil class was involved in a murder case. Even here they had ruthlessly taught a lesson to a bunch of devil class students. By then they could also say that it was because devil class was disobedient after killing someone and forcefully fought with them trying to escape. And they were the envoys of justice stopping devil class. Thinking like this, the various academy students' gazes towards Yiqing Luo instantly turned sinister. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly, as her mind kept on spinning rapidly. She didn't have the leisure to pay attention to those insignificant words from the various academies. His mind was filled with strange thoughts. This was too strange. Had she overlooked something? His brain was working non-stop. Suddenly Yiqing Luo's gaze fixed on a certain spot. That was in Zi Chanshan's direction. At this moment, Zi Chanshan was looking at the surrounding students from the various academies, his eyes filled with joy and surprise. Su Xiaolian whispered something into Zi Chanshan's ear. Zi Chanshan's face lit up with joy, and his eyes emitted an intense and dense killing intent. Shortly after, the two of them looked at each other and smiled. Immediately after, Su Xiaolian held onto Zi Chanshan's arm and was about to take advantage of the commotion to sneak away. However, he heard a cold interrogative voice. Why did you all rush over at the same time? That was Yiqing Luo's voice. The entire audience fell silent for several breaths of time. Even Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian stopped in their tracks. Chapter 1603. What the? This slut is too arrogant. How dare she question us in return? What does it have to do with you how we rushed over? You're a woman who doesn't hesitate to kill others in order to plunder magic crystals. What rights do you have to question us? Yiqing Luo, you've already violated Ghost Martial Masters competition rules. Your Heavenly Academy has already been eliminated. All the students from the various academies started to berate her furiously. One after another, it shook everyone's ears as though it was pierced by a sharp blade. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her eyes were covered with frost, so cold that it could pierce through one's bones. Her gaze swept past the surrounding students one by one. I'll ask again, why on earth did all of you rush over at the same time? That chilling gaze made the students from the various academies inexplicably tighten their hearts. They were completely stunned by this pair of eyes. Whether it was the heart or the soul. As though they were pinched in the palm of Yiqing Luo's hand. They were powerless to struggle, powerless to break free. What kind of imposing manner was this? How arrogant must it be, to be able to make them feel that they couldn't defy it? This majestic aura was actually from a young lady? A young lady who they originally looked down on, released such an imposing manner. Madam Qing Luo, we heard the commotion over here and saw. It seemed like it was on fire and was filled with smoke. We thought something had happened, so we came over. The one who spoke was the one who was rescued by the stream. Me too. Right? I was attracted by that ball of smoke, but the minute I came over, I only saw you guys. Right, it's smoke. When these words were said by the few academies at the same time, the crowd instantly understood something. Immediately their faces turned pale. Oh no! There's a trap. Suddenly, the students from the various academies saw a shadow flashing past in midair. In a breath's time, they saw Yiqing Luo standing in front of Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaolian. Zi Qianqian was apparently shocked. When Yiqing Luo appeared, she gave a shrill shriek as she retreated several steps backwards. If it wasn't for Su Xiaolian who kept pulling her, Zi Qianqian would have fallen onto the ground in a sorry state. What do you want to do? Before Zi Qianqian could finish his sentence, he suddenly let out a miserable shriek. Yiqing Luo directly stretched out her hand and clasped Zi Qianqian's shoulder. Her slender fingers were sparkling like jade, like the most beautiful jade in the world. However, in Zi Qianqian's eyes, those hands were torture tools from hell. Her jade-like fingers seemed to be lightly resting on Zi Qianqian's shoulder. Only Zi Qianqian himself knew. Her shoulder bones had already been crushed by Yiqing Luo. The intense pain caused Zi Qianqian's facial features to contort. Yiqing Luo's elbow slightly exerted force as her 5 fingers clasped onto Zi Qianqian's lower jaw. It's you. A voice as calm as still water came out from Yiqing Luo's mouth. His eyes were ice-cold. Emotionless words. This caused Zi Qianqian's heart to gradually sink into a state of collapse. This was not a question. It was a certainty. Yiqing Luo had already guessed that all these were because of her. Zi Qianqian was in so much pain that her face turned pale. However, when she thought about the current situation, she could not help but laugh coldly. So what if it's me? Yiqing Luo, you can no longer escape. All of you will die. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly. Her long and narrow eyes outlined a cold arc. Her 5 fingers tightened again. The lower jaw bone was also directly shattered in Yiqing Luo's palm. Chapter 1604. Ah! A miserable shriek rang out from Zi Qianqian's mouth. Yiqing Luo loosened her fingers. Zi Qianqian fell weakly onto the ground. Su Xiaolian immediately supported Zi Qianqian. Zi Qianqian opened his mouth, but couldn't utter a single word. Bright red blood oozed from her mouth. You want to kill someone in front of so many students? You simply have no respect for the law. Su Xiaolian was so frightened that her entire body trembled. She felt uneasy as she looked at her blood-stained hands. Your debt will be settled by Master Gui Wu and the headquarters. Not only will the 2 of you become the sinners of the Nirvana realm, but your 2 families will also be destroyed because of your foolish actions today. Yiqing Luo's slender brows furrowed slightly as her clear and charming eyes shot straight towards Zi Qianqian. You. His powerful aura was so oppressive that Su Xiaolian couldn't even make a sound. Zi Qianqian's fingers trembled as she tightly grasped Su Xiaolian's sleeve. His blood-stained hands looked especially horrifying. You, all of you, must die today. Every single word was like a demon demanding his life. The surrounding students felt their hair stand on end when they saw Zi Chanchan's ferocious and bloody appearance. Get out of here. Yes, 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 let's go first. This place is too strange. After coming to their senses, the leaders of the various academies immediately called out to their students and spread out in all directions. They could stand in the fire nest. This also meant that they were elite students handpicked by the various academies. Not only was he talented, he was also not stupid. After Yi Qing Luo's reminder and looking at Zi Chanshan's attitude, soon he understood. This was a trap. It's useless. We can't get out of here. Yi Qing Luo looked at the students who were escaping in all directions as her eyes were covered with a chilly intent. She had always been vigilant and calculative. However, he didn't expect that the dark faction would use Zi Chanshan and Su Xiaolian, these two cripples, to set up a forbidden spell formation here. Furthermore, he had lured all of the students here. Dark forces? He was prepared to make his move. How would these students be able to leave this place? As expected, the students who had scattered and left one after another retreated step by step. One by one they returned to their original positions. He forced the students of the academy to retreat step by step. They were rows of black-robed figures. Their imposing manner was like that of evil spirits that had come from hell. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she sized up the surrounding dark forces which were pressing over. As expected, it was just as the mutated beast had said. There were about 400 people in the Dark Coalition. Although there were only 400 Dark Ones from the Dark Forces, but, facing these young men and women who had yet to experience slaughter and had yet to truly step onto the battlefield, Lin Fan's eyes widened. Even if the total number of students added up was 1,500 people, it would be impossible for them to win. But the Dark Forces wanted to deal with them. It was also a piece of cake. This group of dark people. Yi Qing Luo could clearly sense the extremely strong profound yin qi on them. These dark beings. It was different from the dark ones she had met before. Be it in terms of strength or intelligence, this batch of dark ones was more than a level higher than the dark ones they had encountered before. What is this? What's going on? Why can't we get out? Why did he come back? And these damn things, who the hell are they? For a moment, the fear in the students' hearts was ignited. Chapter 1605. The students of the various academies were already panicking out of their wits. Boss and I, what should we do? These people don't look friendly. Boss and I, aren't we competing in the academy? These people. Could it be that these people were deliberately sent by Master Gui Wu to increase the pressure on us? Boss and I, can we leave this place alive? Voices filled with fear rang out. The person who was called Boss and I in the middle was Nantao Academy's boss, who was also the academy's representative, Anai Lingkong. Anai Lingkong was the strongest person in Class A1 of Nantao Academy. It was similar to the existence of High Profound Class 2 in the Heavenly Academy, Lu Shuiyu. After entering the Flame Lair for training, Nantao Academy had always listened to Anai Lingkong's orders and persisted until now. Now that something had happened, everyone's first thought was to seek Anai Lingkong's help. Anai Lingkong's expression was grave as if he was facing a formidable enemy. They had already reached an agreement with 7 or 8 academies, and he was prepared to collect more magic crystals to defeat the Heavenly Academy in one fell swoop. Just as the few academies were discussing how to deal with the devil class, suddenly, a series of shouts came from not far away. Then he saw black smoke rising from the sky not far away. Just like a fire, black smoke filled the entire nest that was glowing with scarlet flames. The other academies thought that since there were many of them, there was nothing to be afraid of, so they all headed in that direction. Unexpectedly, but he couldn't get out of this damn place. He looked around at the black-robed men surrounding them. Anai Lingkong was not foolish enough to think that this was an opponent sent by Gui Wu to increase their pressure. Anai Lingkong had a bad feeling when he saw the bodies of the 50-odd students from the Wind Vane Academy lying on the ground. Anshang, what do you think we should do now? Anai Lingkong's vision fell onto his own brother, Mo Han Shang. Mo Han Shang was the young master of the Mercenary Association. He had been in the mercenary guild since he was young, following other mercenary groups around. In terms of wilderness survival and actual combat experience, he far surpassed them. Ling Kong, this matter isn't simple. These people, I'm afraid they are the dark ones from the dark forces. Mo Han Shang squinted his delicate brows, as he stared at the surrounding black-robed men. Dark forces? Anai Lingkong's face turned pale. Why would someone from the dark organization appear in the flame lair? Could it be? Could it be? And Ai Lingkong's gaze suddenly turned towards Yiqing Luo's direction. It's her? She's the one who attracted the dark forces. Yiqing Luo had once engaged in a fierce battle with the dark forces in King Ling's tomb. With the power of the holy beast and the divine dragon, they defeated the dark forces. Meanwhile, the dark forces had infiltrated the Nirvana realm once again, attracting the attention of the major sects and clans, and they worked together to deal with the dark forces. What's more, Yiqing Luo and the Imperial Palace's DMO Xian's relationship was not shallow. Recently, the Imperial Palace had been fighting with the dark forces several times. A series of conjectures appeared in his mind, and Ai Lingkong increasingly felt that the dark forces were targeting Yiqing Luo. If they were here for Yiqing Luo, then they just had to hand Yiqing Luo over. Wouldn't that solve the problem? Lingkong, dispel your thoughts. Mo Han Shang could tell what Ai Lingkong was thinking with a single glance. He calmly lifted his eyelids. If the dark forces were here for Qing Luo, they wouldn't have made such a big fuss. What do you mean? Ai Lingkong frowned. Chapter 1606. Barrier? Ai Lingkong cried out in surprise. No wonder, they couldn't leave this place no matter what. It turned out that the way was blocked by a barrier. The barrier was clearly set up by the dark forces. From what Qing Luo said to Zi Qianqian earlier, if I didn't guess wrongly, I'm afraid this dark force was attracted over by Zi Qianqian. This barrier was able to be conjured under the eyes of Gui Wu and the other elders, and it was all because of Zi Qianqian's help. Mo Han Shang's analysis made Ai Lingkong's expression suddenly turn gloomy. A pair of sharp eyes glared fiercely at Zi Qianqian, who was leaning against Su Xiaolian in a sorry state and covered in blood. I've heard that the dark forces have always been enticing profound practitioners to sign soul contracts with them. Mo Han Shang's gaze was solemn, which also represents that the forces of darkness require the souls of profound practitioners, and this time the forces of darkness have trapped us within this barrier, so I'm afraid it's because they want to take away our souls. Take away our souls? Ai Lingkong's expression turned ugly. Are we all going to die here? Not necessarily. Mo Han Shang suddenly raised his eyes as his gaze went past Ai Lingkong, looking straight at a certain spot behind him. Cooperate with Qing Luo, and drag on till Master Gui Wu breaks the barrier and rushes over to save us. Devil classes Yiqing Luo? Ai Lingkong's brows creased. Why are you so close to that bunch of people from Devil class? We had just agreed to cooperate with various academies and now we're cooperating with Yiqing Luo? When your life is at stake, the most important thing is to stay alive, isn't it? Mo Han Shang smiled as he patted Ai Lingkong's shoulder lightly. For the sake of the overall situation, believe in Qing Luo. Ai Lingkong and Mo Han Shang had been good friends for many years. Ai Lingkong knew his brother's character very well. He was someone who could make the young master of the Mercenary Association, who was used to seeing outstanding profound practitioners, look at him in a different light. There must be something special about her. With this thought in mind, Ai Lingkong clenched his fists. All right, I'll believe you this time. Saying that, Ai Lingkong pushed aside those students behind him and walked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The enemy was right in front of them. Both sides' auras clashed, but no one dared to act rashly. As for the academies, they had placed all their hopes on the Nantao Academy. Seeing this, the boss of Nantao College moved. The gazes of all the students also followed closely. Following that, she saw Ai Lingkong standing in front of Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she sized up the imposing young man in front of her. Student Yiqing Luo, those people dressed in black robes, are the Dark Forces' dark agents, right? Ai Lingkong didn't beat around the bush as he spoke out directly. Dark Forces? The crowd sucked in a breath of cold air. The whispers of fear and clamor grew louder. When the Dark Forces heard Ai Lingkong's question, they sneered disapprovingly. They had no intention of deliberately concealing their identities. Even if they knew that they were Dark Ones from the Dark Forces, so what? In the end, these students would still be buried here. Oh, so Boss Ai also knows about the Dark Forces. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as though she was in deep thoughts. What you said is right. Their bodies are all emitting the Dark Force's dark aura. As for Ai Lingkong's goal, Yiqing Luo could more or less guess what was going on. Chapter 1607. Yiqing Luo glanced behind him with a smile which didn't look like a smile, as though she was hesitating and wanted to speak out. If Nantao Academy were to cooperate with me now, wouldn't we be letting down the other academies' good intentions? What she guessed earlier was indeed right. They had plundered the various academies' magic crystals. Those academies had indeed gone over to Nantao Academy. Now this scenario was a little awkward. A few academies had gone over to Nantao Academy to seek cooperation, seeking to get rid of Heavenly Academy, in order to take revenge for their stolen magic crystals. Now, Nantao Academy's big boss had initiated cooperation with Heavenly Academy's Yiqing Luo. Those few big bosses who had gone over to Nantao Academy had a colorful expression on their faces. And Ai Ling Kong was stunned as he turned back to look at those few big bosses and opened his mouth, wanting to explain something. A slender hand was placed on his shoulder. Mo Han Shang walked up slowly as he stared at Yiqing Luo with some reproach. Qing Luo, stop making fun of him. Soon after, Mo Han Shang's expression was calm as he looked at the few big bosses of the academy. It's just as what all the students are thinking. These people are all from the dark forces. Moreover, they want to take away all of our lives as well as our souls. Under the current situation, we must unite. Only by surviving can we continue to fight for the academy's competition, isn't that so? Those few big bosses' expressions started to congeal. If these people were from the dark forces, if they wanted to escape from the dark forces, then they must rely on themselves. What Mo Han Shang said was very right. Only by surviving would they have the capital to fight. They lost their lives. What was the point of them seeking refuge to Nantao Academy to go against Heavenly Academy? Right. Only by surviving can we continue to fight for the academy. Now isn't the time for personal grudges. The other party is from the dark forces. I heard that the dark forces are a bunch of devils who kill without batting an eyelid. Their methods are cruel and extremely bloody. Unite! Unite! The few academy students raised their arms and cheered loudly at this instance. It immediately ignited all the students' fighting spirit. Those few academies happened to be the academies which Yiqing Luo had saved by the stream. Yiqing Luo looked at the surrounding students' morale, which was obviously ignited. But this kind of passion didn't last for too long. All of you shut up. A sharp, furious voice came from the Dark Coalition. The Dark Ones slowly dispersed, revealing a small path. One of them was wearing a long black robe. Her figure was curvy under the black robe. Yiqing Qian? When Yiqing Luo saw that person, her slender brows rose slightly into an arc. She had actually come in person. Then, that wolf Saint Law who doted on her to the bone had also come. Yiqing Qian didn't use the black robe to cover her face as she exposed her face in front of everyone's eyes. Her exquisite eyebrows had now become even more alluring, just like a real fox. The students of Intermediate Profound Class 2 were stunned on the spot. Yiqing Qian? You are Yiqing Qian. Someone recognized Yiqing Qian's face. They couldn't believe it. That fickle Yiqing Qian who had become a laughingstock in Three Spring City had actually become a member of the Dark Forces. Moreover, looking at Yiqing Qian's expression, clearly his position in the dark world was not low. Whoosh, there was a piercing sound. Yiqing Qian's gaze suddenly turned sharp. Chapter 1608. Ah. That Intermediate Profound Class 2 student only felt a cold glint flashing past her face. That cold glint revealed an extremely dense murderous aura. She retreated backwards in horror. But how could her speed match up to the current Yiqing Qian? That burst of profound chi was like a hot knife through butter, directly pressing towards the Intermediate Profound Class 2 student's face. Bam! Just when the Intermediate Profound Class 2 students thought that they were dead meat. But they didn't feel the pain that they had imagined. She quietly opened her eyes. The first thing that entered his eyes was a feather fan that was gorgeous like a fiery glow. The stars and fire were flickering, beautiful beyond compare. Glower Flame Fan. This was Yiqing Luo's Glower Flame Fan. The Intermediate Profound Class 2 students were ecstatic as they looked towards the direction of the feather fan. Sure enough, they saw Yiqing Luo standing by her side, using the Glower Flame Fan to block Yiqing Qian's attack. Madam Qing Luo, thank you. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways. Stand aside. The female student had just saved her life. Naturally she didn't dare to disobey as she trembled and returned to her companions. At this moment, the Intermediate Profound Class 2 students looked at Yiqing Qian with shock and astonishment, and also hatred and disgust. Who could have expected that Yiqing Qian, who had a bad reputation, would use such a method to once again appear in front of everyone? From today onwards, please call me Guardian Hu. Yi Qingqian's curved brows. When she spoke, her voice rose, revealing a trace of amorous feelings. If anyone calls this guardian's name wrongly, the next move is not something that Yiqing Luo can block even if she wants to. None of the students dared to open their mouths. Yiqing Luo swayed the glower flame fan. Her footsteps were light as she passed through the crowd and walked towards Yi Qingqian. The students, because of Yiqing Luo's actions, they all sucked in a mouthful of cold air. Everyone's gazes were fixed on Yiqing Luo. That figure, petite and lovely. But it revealed a sense of oppression that couldn't be ignored, slender but proud. You. What do you want to do? Yi Qingqian saw Yiqing Luo walking towards her. Her fear towards Yiqing Luo made her unable to restrain her pale face as she trembled slightly. The scenes of the past. It appeared in front of Yi Qingqian. The humiliation that Yiqing Luo had brought to her. She would never forget it. Hatred and anger surged from Yi Qingqian's heart. There were circles of mysterious yin qi lingering in those amorous eyes. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes and stared at the circle of black qi in Yi Qingqian's eyes as she smiled calmly. Eldest sister really has true love for the Wolf Saint technique. In order to be together with the Wolf Saint technique, you can even abandon the Yi family and Three Springs sect. If old ancestor were to find out about this, I wonder if he would fulfill eldest sister's wish to leave the Yi family's genealogy. Yiqing Luo's words pointed out Yi Qingqian's current situation. Wolf Saint technique? It was obviously a certain boss of the underground forces. In other words, Yi Qingqian really couldn't change her fickle character. Even after arriving at the underground forces, she still resorted to all sorts of methods to seduce men. That was how she managed to achieve such a position in the underground forces? Instead of worrying about this protector, why don't you worry more about yourselves? Yi Qingqian gave a cold harumph as her eyes turned chilly. When the array is combined into one, all of you will. She suddenly lowered her voice as she leaned close to Yiqing Luo's ear and spat out a word with a sneer. Die. Silence. A deathly silence. The entire fire lair fell into silence. Chapter 1609. When she heard the last three words, Yi Qingqian's face suddenly turned pale. That voice was clear and ethereal. As though a voice from hell. Using an extremely gentle voice, bringing her along to hell. You. Yi Qingqian's heart thumped as she was so frightened that she retreated several steps back. After being supported by the few black-robed men, Yi Qingqian still had some lingering fears. Sinister and vicious eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo, who was pressing on. But she saw Yiqing Luo's lips curling into a smile. Her eyes were calm. That smile, which didn't look like a smile, was gazing at her, as though it was bottomless. As though there was a whirlpool, which was pulling her into that whirlpool. Yi Qingqian quivered as her fingers clenched into a fist as her expression turned vigilant. Yiqing Luo, I'd like to see what other great abilities you have. Even if Yiqing Luo had wings now, she would absolutely not be able to escape from this place. Setting up an enchantment and a forbidden spell array. Yiqing Luo would definitely die today. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she waved her feather fan and turned back to Devil Class's side. Long Yunzhan and the rest immediately went up to her. Are you all right? I'm fine. Yiqing Luo saw everyone's worried gazes as she shook her head. This time the dark forces obviously came prepared. Looks like King of Darkness's requirement towards us young and clean cultivators' souls is increasing. This also meant that King of Darkness's seal was about to be lifted. So, these student souls, we must protect them. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her voice turned chilly. Earlier Yi Qingqian mentioned combining the arrays. Is it this forbidden spell array and the array which absorbs our soul power? And Rua Pan asked softly. Yiqing Luo nodded. It should be like this. The dark ones of the dark forces only surrounded them here. They didn't start a massacre. Which was enough to tell that they had a deeper motive. Yi Qingqian's earlier words about combining the arrays, Yiqing Luo hadn't thought deeply into it. And Rua Pan instead saw through the clues. She had to admit that the dark forces had really made sufficient preparations this time round. An unbreakable barrier. A forbidden spell array which could continuously provide the dark forces energy. Coupled with a forbidden spell array which could absorb souls. When these two arrays were completely combined, these 1,000 students were totally meat on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. Qing Luo, you've crossed hands with the dark forces before and you have such a stunning performance in this aspect. How should we leave this ghastly place now? Mo Han Shang also heard their discussion as he opened his mouth to ask with a grave expression. Yiqing Luo looked at the various academy's bosses and they had all automatically gathered around Devil Class's surroundings. Upon hearing Emo Hanshang's question, they all started to speak. Once they heard Emo Hanshang's question, all started. However, they understood that once the formation was united, they would all die here. The reason why the dark forces are so powerful is because they have forbidden spells or secret techniques that our Nirvana realm can't use. Yiqing Luo explained, but this kind of forbidden curse or secret art usage belongs to the act of going against heaven's will, destroying the laws of this heaven way. The person who cast the curse will also suffer the punishment of heaven way. Emo Hanshang's eyes lit up. Your meaning is? As long as we find the person who cast the curse, we can destroy the array? Chapter 16:10. Although that elder's battle power is lacking, his spirit power is extremely strong. Furthermore, he knows a lot of curse techniques and secret techniques. Because of that, the Darkness Protector will definitely protect that elder very well. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept past the surrounding academy's bosses. Emo Hanshang was the first to react. I understand. We have to pay attention to where the Dharma Protectors are the most concentrated. That's where the elders who cast the curse are hiding. That's right. Yiqing Luo gave Emo Hanshang an admiring look. This kid's reaction was godly. What should we do? Anai Lingkong's brows creased as he looked at Emo Hanshang, who was looking at Yiqing Luo with a look of worship, as his expression was slightly impatient. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she gave a light smile. If you're willing to listen to my instructions, perhaps we might have a chance to destroy the array. The academy bosses' faces darkened as they looked at each other for a long time. Towards Yiqing Luo. All the academies were unable to wholeheartedly trust him. Although the Devil class had been performing exceptionally well and outstandingly in the special training recently. However, Yiqing Luo's reputation as the useless seventh Missy had already spread all over the country. A person who had been called trash for more than a decade. It was just a few days of dazzling performance. It really wasn't enough to wash away everyone's perception. Amidst this strange silence, Chen Kuan Academy's eldest brother Shi Ruoyu replied in a deep voice. My Chen Kuan Academy will listen to student Yiqing Luo's instructions. Yiqing Luo nodded with a faint smile. After a few breaths' time, another student spoke up. I, Lu Mo Yuan, represent the King College and listen to Yiqing Luo's instructions. Following that, the leaders of the academies expressed their opinions one after another. These academies were mostly the academies which were saved by Yiqing Luo earlier at the riverside. The remaining dozen academies still had some resistance and hesitation in their hearts. After all, this Yiqing Luo had led Devil Class to snatch their magic crystals not too long ago. Now they had to obey Yiqing Luo. It was really difficult to choose. I don't agree. Suddenly a loud voice rang out. She saw Jitsang Tian arrogantly raising his head. Yiqing Luo, you slut, how dare you deploy my Celestial Phoenix Academy students? The dark forces have appeared here because of you. Jitsang Tian's words made the entire space sink into a deathly silence. Everyone's eyes were focused on him. Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly as her gaze met Jitsang Tian's eyes. Her pink lips curled up slightly, a smile lingering at the corner of her mouth. Once again she had guessed correctly. This Jitsang Tian was indeed involved with the dark forces. However, this Jitsang Tian wasn't tainted by the profound Yin Qi. It seemed like the dark forces had put in a lot of effort to make her lower her guard. Jitsang Tian's words indeed made some sense. However, it didn't make sense. Her existence was merely a fuse. Even if she wasn't here. The dark forces needed a large number of clean souls of young profound practitioners. He could only start from the various academies. Even if it wasn't now. In the near future, these students would also become food for the King of Darkness. Jitsang Tian saw Yiqing Luo not saying a word. He thought that what Lan Ling Nua had taught him was the truth. Immediately, he straightened his back and snorted coldly. Don't think that I don't know the inside story. The dark forces have chased you all the way here to seek revenge. You want to use everyone's power to help you deal with the dark forces. Jitsang Tian finished his words. The expressions of the dozen or so academy bosses, who were still hesitating, changed drastically. Chapter 16:11. Students like them had no grudges with the dark forces. Why would the underworld organization want their lives? In the various academies, only the devil class of the Heavenly Academy had enmity with the dark forces. If the dark organization had come to the flame lair for revenge, then the dark organization would not have come to the flame lair. It did make sense. Big brother Tsangqian is right, don't even think about using everyone's power. Lanling Nua chimed in. You still haven't given us an explanation for the students of the Wind Vane Academy dying in the blazing nest, and now you're trying to trick us into dying for you. You're too vicious. When Ji Tsangtian heard his beloved woman helping him, he became even more complacent. The more the bosses of the academies listened, the more indignant they felt. Wasn't this Yi Qing Luo too sinister? He actually wanted to use everyone? Hearing everyone's abuse and doubts towards Yi Qing Luo, Shi Ruoxi's eyes instantly turned red as she retorted, You're the representatives of the academy, are you people who listen to the wind and rain? Mo Han Shang nodded his head and chimed in, Student Ji Tsangtian's words have no proof, on what basis do you think that Qing Luo wants to make use of everyone? His voice paused as an icy cold intent flashed past Mo Han Shang's eyes, If we're talking about making use of others, I think you Ji Tsangtian are that kind of treacherous villain. Ever since he heard Zhao Bo's story, Mo Han Shang's impression of Ji Tsangtian was extremely bad. You took advantage of your brother's feelings and trust towards you. For the sake of Lanling Nua, you killed your own brother who has gone through life and death with you. Even now, you don't have any regrets and are still together with this woman. Mo Han Shang gave a cold laugh. Just based on your character, whatever you say, I won't believe a single word. Ji Tsangtian's face instantly sunk. One's dark history was actually brought out in the open. No one would be able to tolerate it. In the past, they were afraid of Mo Han Shang because Mo Han Shang was the Mercenary Association's young patriarch. Now, his Ji family had been completely blacklisted by the Mercenary Union. Why would he need to curry favor with a young master? Immediately, Ji Tsangtian's face turned black as he released Lanling Nua's waist as he raised his palm and struck out a palm wind towards Mo Han's hang. Ji Tsangtian. Mo Han Shang's expression sunk as he raised his hand to counterattack. His shoulder was pressed down by a slender palm. A red feather fan flashed with an enchanting brilliance. It easily blocked Ji Tsangtian's palm wind. Yi Qing Luo slowly walked past Mo Han Shang and stood in front of him as her eyes squinted as she looked at Ji Tsangtian quietly. Her face was expressionless and her eyes were cold. Ji Tsangtian's body trembled slightly, and under that gaze, he actually wanted to kneel down and beg for mercy. Ji Tsangtian resisted the urge to embarrass himself as he went on full alert. Don't waste time with him. He's just trying to stall for time. Yi Qing Luo's chilly voice drifted into everyone's ears. Like a clap of thunder, every word and sentence struck the hearts of everyone present. If you don't believe me, feel free to leave. Of course, if the dark forces try to stop you from leaving, I won't help you at all. If you trust me, then don't say anything more and hurry up. The leaders of the dozen academies hesitated. She looked at Ji Tsangtian's direction for some time. In the end, there were 5 to 6 academies who gritted their teeth and walked towards Yi Qing Luo. With this departure, several academies also followed closely behind. After all, it was a matter of life and death. No one dared to use their own lives or their fellow students' lives to gamble. In the end, no matter how Ji Tsangtian shouted. Chapter 16:12. Yi Qing Luo used the shortest time possible to arrange the various academy students into their respective responsibilities. After a few days of training, Yi Qing Luo more or less had some understanding towards the various academies' comprehensive ability. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to lead the Devil class to plunder 18 academies' magic crystals so smoothly. From the start to the end, there wasn't any special activity from the dark forces. Yi Qing Qian stood in front of the dark forces as she sneered at them. That gaze seemed as though she was looking at an ant struggling at death's door. It could be seen that the dark forces had made sufficient preparations this time round. They also had absolute confidence to take in all the students' souls. Yi Qing Luo's peripheral vision glanced at Yi Qing Qian's complacent expression as a cold smile flashed past her eyes. Seeing the dark forces being so arrogant, she was even more assured towards her own plan. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she looked at the students who were all ready to go into action and laughed lightly. Before we start, I still need to settle something. Saying that, she turned around and faced Zi Chanshan's direction. Su Xiaolian was supporting Zi Chanshan, who was covered in blood and moaning in pain as they left silently. They were already far away from the crowd and were just a few steps away from leaving the array barrier. Suddenly, the surroundings became extremely quiet. Su Xiaolian's footsteps halted as she felt a chill down her spine. She realized something as she turned her head around. Indeed, she saw Yi Qing Luo's arms were crossed as she looked at Zi Chanshan and her direction with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Su Xiaoyan's legs turned into jelly as she immediately supported Zi Qianshan and quickened her footsteps as they dashed forward. Behind her, a ghostly laughter followed closely. Did you think that you helped them to bury the array's medium, the dark forces would let you off just because of that? That voice was right beside her ears. Su Xiaoyan was so frightened that her legs turned into jelly as she didn't manage to support Zi Qianshan properly. She was even tripped by Zi Qianshan's leg. The both of them fell onto the ground. What dark forces, you're spouting rubbish? Su Xiaoyan's body trembled as she looked at Yiqing Luo in terror. We didn't help the dark forces, we obviously only. Shut up. Zi Qianshan endured the pain as he berated Su Xiaoyan angrily and subsequently stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. It's your people who said that everything must be based on evidence. We don't know any dark forces at all. How could we help them bury a matrix medium? Yiqing Luo slowly curled her dimples into a smile. The area of this forbidden spell array is so huge, in order to bury the medium, it must have taken up quite a lot of time. And the person who buried the medium, his hands should have been tainted with thick profound yin qi. As soon as she finished speaking, Su Xiaoyan had already reflexively raised her hand and sniffed it. Idiot. Zi Qianshan gritted his teeth and glared at Su Xiaoyan. Only then did Su Xiaoyan realize her mistake and hurriedly put her hands behind her back. However, her instinctive behavior had already fallen into the eyes of the students from the various academies. Yes or no, I will not say for now. Yiqing Luo squatted down and her fingertips suddenly flicked out a pill and slipped it into Zi Qianshan's mouth. Zi Qianshan wanted to vomit, but the pill melted in her mouth. Following that, Yiqing Luo popped another pill into Su Xiaoyan's mouth. In the blink of an eye, their bodies were so stiff that they could not move. No matter how much strength they used, their bodies were like rocks. Yiqing Luo lifted her leg and casually kicked the both of them to a spot not too far away. Chapter 16:13. Madam Qing Luo, you might as well kill this kind of person. Why should we spare her life? So this whatever array, this barrier, is the medium which the both of them buried. If we don't kill them, how are we going to appease our anger? The students were filled with righteous indignation. All of them couldn't wait to tear out Zi Qianshan and Su Xiaoyan's tendons and bones. It was these two people who had caused them to fall into this life and death predicament. Death to them is a release. Yiqing Luo sneered. I believe that Master Gue Wu in the headquarters will help us to settle the both of them. The students' clamoring voices stopped. They instantly understood Yiqing Luo's plan. Indeed, if these two sluts died so quickly, wouldn't it be a release for them? If this matter were to be blown to the headquarters, in order to give an explanation to the various academies and large clans, they would definitely use all methods to find out the whereabouts of the dark forces from Zi Qianshan and Su Xiaoyan. These two people's clans, they would definitely be destroyed. This was the biggest punishment for these two sluts. Yiqing Luo used the same method to kick Ji Tsangtian and Lanling Nua to Zi Qianshan's side. The reason was in case someone created trouble later on. As for the other Celestial Phoenix Academy students, their boss was gone. Other than submitting to Yiqing Luo, they had no other choice. Moreover, they heard that Ji Tsangtian had killed a few brothers from his mercenary group for Lanling Nua. How would Celestial Phoenix Academy students have the mood to sell their lives for Ji Tsangtian? Everyone, including those from the dark forces, had not seen it at all. At the same time, when Yiqing Luo fed the pills into their mouths, her fingertips flicked out an extremely small crystal clear pearl. That pearl fell into the sand on the ground, and in a blink of an eye, it was swept away by the sand. In a blink of an eye, the ground was already empty. Yiqing Luo returned to the front of the crowd as her vision looked towards Yiqing Qian, who was standing in front. Your expression tells me that the two arrays are about to merge into one. Yiqing Qian's eyes were filled with viciousness. That's right. But I've always liked to watch the prey's final struggle, especially. You personally put on a show. What a coincidence. I also like to see the drama of the complacent prey dying a tragic death in despair when their plans fail. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. Yiqing Qian's expression sunk as she looked viciously at the dark ones beside her. All of you, play with these fellows who don't know what's good for you and enjoy the feeling of prey struggling. Yes. Guardian who? The dark ones responded in unison. Following that, the dark one's aura suddenly burst forth as they took the initiative to attack. In this area of the curse array, their dark yin qi could be supplied continuously. Torturing these students was a piece of cake. Devil class students, release your weights. Yiqing Luo's vision swept across the crowd, and the weighted soft armor on you, remove it. Everyone was taken aback. They seemed to have just realized that they were also wearing soft armors that weighed about 70 kilograms. After a few days of hard and tiring training, they had almost forgotten about this matter. When Yiqing Luo mentioned it, all the students used their fastest speed to remove the weighted soft armor. The moment the weight-bearing soft armor landed on the ground, they could clearly feel the changes brought about by their own bodies. Light as a feather. Chapter 16:14. Bam bam bam. Bam bam bam. While the students from various academies were shocked at how light they were as feathers, they heard the sound of a heavy object falling onto the ground. The students looked towards the source of the sound. Then they saw Devil class's group of perverts undoing a strap on their wrists, undoing the straps on their waists and legs. That strap landed on the ground. It was even louder than the soft armors. Wasn't this a weight belt? This group of perverts. Not only were they wearing the specially made soft armors by ghost martial artist, their 4 limbs were also tied with weight belts? Did they need to be so perverted? The students from various academies were so shocked that their hearts were trembling. Some students didn't believe it. They specially went up to pick up the weight belt. But that weight pressed that student's veins were popping out before he could barely lift it up. A loud dong sound was heard. The student really couldn't lift it up properly, as the weight belt in his hands fell onto the ground. In the students' minds there were only 3 words existing: true, change, abnormal. What are you all still standing there for? Waiting for death? Yiqing Luo's cold voice rang sharply. The students from various academies heard a buzzing sound in their ears. Their consciousness suddenly became clear, only to see in front of them the dark ones covering the sky and earth, attacking in groups. The students cried out in shock. They had not regained their senses in time. Just as the students were trying to avoid the dark one's attack, suddenly, a red glow appeared in front of them, as swift as thunder, as fast as lightning, as though it was weaving an impenetrable large net in front of the students. Boom! A loud sound was heard. The dark one's attack fell into that large net. In a split second, profound light surged. That large net was imposing, filled with murderous intent. The dark ones who were the first to rush up. At the moment when that profound chi struck, they were sent flying. This strike gave those students a chance to avoid the danger. The students' figures immediately evaded as they looked towards the front. They were all astonished. They simply couldn't believe their own eyes. They saw that slender and elegant figure, wielding the glower flame fan, gently sweeping it. That large net which blocked the dark one's attack at this moment, suddenly dispersed. They transformed into strands of sharp, profound energy that directly sealed off the attacks of the dark ones. Just now, it was Yiqing Luo who saved them. It was Yiqing Luo's attack which gave them a chance to catch a breather. Then all the students saw the woman whom they had never been able to truly trust, the woman whom they were unwilling to submit to. He walked among the hundreds of dark ones with extreme ease, the devouring flame fan in her hand. It was like the sharpest blade in the world. Wherever it went, blood spurted out. One by one, the dark ones fell to the ground. Yiqing Luo's actions were still continuing. Her footwork was so strange that the dark ones could not touch her at all. Wherever the glowing flame fan waved, the dark ones could not dodge at all. 10 corpses of the dark ones fell to the ground, 20 dark one corpses fell to the ground, 30 dark one corpses fell to the ground, 40. This was Yiqing Luo's real ability? As expected of the people supported by those perverts. There's no such thing as the most perverted, only more perverted. Those 1,500 over students finally understood why Yiqing Luo only asked them to split into groups to harass the dark forces. Like Yiqing Luo's ability, she alone could take down these hundreds of dark forces people. This Yiqing Luo. Absolutely not just earth profound realm cultivators. Chapter 16:15. That majestic grandeur. That aura which was above the 9 heavens. How could ordinary cultivators possibly possess it? The various academy students were filled with a surge of confidence. At this moment, no one had any complaints as they started to resist against the attacking positions which Yiqing Luo had set. Whereas at this moment, Yiqing Luo, who was wandering among the dark ones, saw that everyone had already made their move. His figure flashed and disappeared into the shadows of the students. Ants could swallow an elephant. Although this group of students' abilities were not comparable to the dark forces, But according to her instructions, they suppressed the number of people. This would be able to delay the Dark Ones for some time and ensure that those students would not get hurt. This batch of Dark Ones was as she had expected. As compared to the Dark Ones whom she had met previously, their abilities were much more powerful. This batch should be those who were about to become protectors, but were still 1 or 2 steps away from becoming protectors. She had circled the area just now. It looked so effortless. In actual fact, only she knew how strenuous it was. At this critical juncture, she had to bring out a convincing ability, using her own ability to conquer the various academy students. Otherwise, those academies who were unresigned, once they threw a little tantrum, today they would definitely die in the hands of the dark forces. Yiqing Luo was in the middle as she spoke in a low voice. Shadow, immediately search for the position of the array core. I've already arranged for a helper to help you in secret. The other brothers search for the person who cast the curse. Devil classes students split up. Yiqing Luo's sharp vision focused on the direction of the Dark Ones. There were 300 over people who charged forward to attack. There were still 100 over people standing behind Yiqing Qian, as though they were watching a show. Those 100 over Dark Ones were not standing in an orderly manner. Instead, they were scattered here and there. The more it was like this, the more certain Yiqing Luo was. The elder who cast the curse was definitely near those Dark Ones. The moment when Yiqing Luo's figure disappeared, Yiqing Qian acutely sensed it. Her vision had been following Yiqing Luo closely, just in case anything happened. On Yiqing Luo's body, she had already seen too many accidents. Yiqing Luo's luck was simply too heaven-defying. Yiqing Qian no longer dared to bet on this 1 in 10,000 chance of Yiqing Luo turning the tables. Yiqing Qian was on high alert as she suppressed her voice and warned the dark man beside her, "Stay alert and sense the surroundings. Hey my big sister, where's your vigilance?" Just as Yiqing Qian's words landed, a sweet laughter entered Yiqing Qian's ears. This voice was like a huge bell, falling heavily into Yiqing Qian's ears. Yiqing Qian turned her head around in shock. She saw Yiqing Luo's repulsive face appearing right in front of her eyes. Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Qian bellowed in rage as she turned her hand to attack Yiqing Luo's direction. But Yiqing Luo agilely evaded and raised her leg to kick Yiqing Qian. Yiqing Qian's body flew backwards. She followed closely and stepped on Yiqing Qian's chest with one foot. You are despicable. Yiqing Qian knew that Yiqing Luo's speed was fast. But they had not expected Yiqing Luo's speed to be so fast that they didn't even have a chance to breathe. Yiqing Qian spat out a mouthful of blood as her face turned pale and she almost crushed her gums. I'm just catching them off guard. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she increased the strength on her leg. She moved swiftly among the few hundred Dark Ones and killed close to 50 of them. What she relied on was catching them off guard. And to hit Yiqing Qian. It really couldn't be said to be catching them off guard. Could only be said. Chapter 16:16. She thought that she was well prepared. She thought that no matter how much ability Yiqing Luo had, there was absolutely no way to escape from the array. She thought that she would be able to see with her own eyes those who had mocked and insulted her go to hell. She thought. But all of them thought. But they had neglected Yiqing Luo's current ability. Earth Profound Grade and Above ability. The difference of a single grade was like the distance between heaven and earth. Not to mention that she had already stepped into the Sky Profound Grade and was known as the Sky Profound Overlord. Dealing with Yiqing Qian was simply too easy. But this indeed couldn't be said that Yiqing Qian had no brains. After all, who would have thought that? Yiqing Luo was merely in the Earth Profound Grade 4th grade before she entered the Blazing Flame Lair. In a short span of 5 days, she became a Sky Profound Overlord. Looking at the entire Nirvana realm. No one has been able to do that. You. Yiqing Qian realized this as her eyes suddenly widened. To be able to move freely among the 300 over dark men. To be able to kill close to 50 of them alone. To be able to silently avoid the remaining 100 over dark men's senses, get close to her and attack her. Such a powerful force. Such an irresistible force. Yiqing Luo was a Sky Profound Overlord. Other than this reason, Yiqing Qian couldn't think of a second reason. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she smiled sweetly. From the corner of her eyes, she saw those dark men rushing up to save Yiqing Qian. The smile on her lips grew. Her fingertips turned and the glower flame fan was like a dancing flame as it flipped in her palm. Bursts of valiant force could uproot the mountains and rivers. The moment the glower flame fan appeared, It set off layers of waves and everything on the ground had turned into a whirlpool. Those dark men had yet to get close. Under this powerful whirlwind they were sent flying. Yi Qingqian was the closest. She could clearly feel the terrifying aura surging from Yi Qingluo. That valiant aura seemed to be able to absorb everything in the world. Yi Qingqian's heart suddenly stopped. The profound yin qi which was circulating recklessly in her eyes flowed chaotically. The aura of death. She felt it. The aura which was getting closer and closer to her. Seeing the despair in Yi Qingqian's eyes, a trace of disdain flashed past Yi Qingluo's eyes. He gave up struggling just like that? Her good elder sister was someone who could grab onto life-saving straws time and time again when she was about to be destroyed. Make use of your advantages and live on tenaciously like weeds. How could they give up just like that? How could he be willing to die like this? What was Yi Qingqian trying to do? Yi Qingluo's half-squinted eyes were suffused with a glimmer of rippling luster. Retracting her peripheral vision, she leaned forward slightly. That slender body happened to block Yi Qingqian's line of sight. What are you going to do? Yi Qingqian's face turned pale as she looked at Yi Qingluo who was closing in on her. The courage in her heart turned into fear. Her delicate body was trembling slightly, and her face was pale. No matter how one looked at it, it would make one feel pity for her. Yi Qingluo chuckled softly as her charming eyes were flowing with luster, becoming increasingly flirtatious. Elder sister, since we are going to die in this place, I naturally have to bring you along to hell. Her voice was a little chilly, but there was also a hint of playfulness in it. When Yi Qingqian heard this, she felt a chill down her spine. Before Yi Qingqian could react, suddenly she heard a shrill scream coming from not too far away. Following that, numerous black-robed men, like a celestial maiden scattering flowers, flew out in all directions. Chapter 16-17. She suddenly regained her senses. She immediately shouted towards the dark ones who were still entangled with the 1,000 over students. Yi Qingqian knew that Yi Qingluo was sinister and cunning. She also knew that Yi Qingluo was full of tricks. She was on guard. But she had not expected that Yi Qingluo could instigate the students from various academies to listen to her instructions, and even discovered the secret of the array in the shortest time possible. Yi Qingqian's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Yi Qingluo quietly got close to her and attacked her. It was to attract her attention, to attract the attention of those 100 over dark ones who had yet to participate in the battle. Yi Qingluo was pretending to deal with her. It was to create an opportunity for Devil Class's group to find the person who cast the curse. Yi Qingluo successfully created an opportunity for Devil Class, and also allowed Devil Class to successfully find those elders who were hidden behind the crowd and continuously casting the curse. A total of 10 elders. They lined up in a formation. And beside each elder, stood 2 black-robed dark ones who were obviously of a higher level. On the black robes there was an eye-catching badge. Devil Class students recognized that it was the symbol of a guardian. The Devil Class students used their fastest speed to kill all the dark ones around them. Following that, they went near the elders. Momentarily, the guardians and Devil Class students were entangled in a battle. Yi Qingqian looked at the disrupted formation in front of her. Looking at the numerous Devil Class students, fiercely attacking the direction of the elders. Her face turned paler and paler. An indescribable restlessness surged in his chest and spread throughout his body. Yi Qingqian herself didn't notice it. At this moment, circles of black profound qi were constantly surging in her eyes, forming a vortex. This scene Yi Qingluo saw it clearly. Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes, quickly loosened the restraint on Yi Qingqian, and retreated a few steps. Yi Qingluo was very clear. The profound yin qi in Yi Qingqian's body, under her irritable mood, started to stir. Shengguan Lioli had mentioned this before. What the dark forces needed was not only souls and resentment. The same logic could be used. What the dark forces needed was not only resentment and all kinds of negative energy emotions. For example, anger and hatred as well as jealousy. This kind of emotion was the easiest to cause the corrosion of the profound yin qi. After Yi Qingqian joined the dark forces, she accepted the transformation of the profound yin qi. He was also often intimate with the Wolf Saint technique, whose body contained countless mysterious yin qi. Naturally, it would also absorb the profound yin qi from the Wolf Saint Dharma. Yi Qingluo was the clearest about the consequences of being corroded by the profound yin qi. Yi Qingluo's vision swept past the students who were battling on both sides. The devil class gradually closed in on the 10 elders. The students of the various academies also used their greatest strength to block the hundreds of dark ones. Everyone was working hard to survive. She absolutely could not let Yi Qingchen spoil her plans. Yi Qingluo's eyes turned slightly cold as her vision returned to Yi Qingchen, who was completely covered by the profound yin qi. She flipped her palm and flicked out a pill. That pill had yet to be flicked into Yi Qingchen's mouth. Yi Qingchen had already reflexively raised her palm, striking that pill to the side. Yi Qingluo, this move of yours can deal with those two trash, but to deal with me? It's not that easy. Yi Qingchen retreated several steps back the moment she was released by Yi Qingluo. Her eyes were filled with viciousness and her eyes were filled with profound yin qi. Chapter 16:18. Yi Qingluo sighed helplessly as she looked at the woman who had turned sinister and terrifying. I want you to die in a comfortable way, but you have to choose this violent way of dying. She shook her head helplessly. After all, you were once my elder sister. As your sister, I can only try my best to satisfy you. Aha. Don't just talk big. Yi Qingchen's voice was hoarse as her body gradually floated into the air. The current Yi Qingchen was exceptionally terrifying. That wisp of profound yin qi had already seeped out from Yi Qingchen's eyes. The black qi had encircled Yi Qingchen entirely. She opened her arms. The endless profound yin qi from the surroundings gathered towards her. What is that? Monster. All the students from the various academies looked at Yi Qingchen, who was floating in the sky in terror. One by one they cried out in terror. And this moment of panic gave the dark agents a chance to attack. Momentarily, the students from the various academies were tangled in a fight and the dark agents broke a gap. The students who were charging at the front were immediately sent flying by the dark agents. Oh no. Quickly defend, we can't let them pass. Devil class, be careful, the dark forces are about to pass. The entire scene started to descend into chaos. After the dark agents broke through the students' encirclement, the first thing they did was to rush towards the direction of the devil class. They wanted to prevent the devil class students from getting near the elders. Those elders were the key to completing their mission today. Steady. A loud shout was heard by the students. That voice was sonorous and powerful, firm and full of tension. You only need to take care of the mission that I have given you. Leave the rest to me. That voice had a convincing magical power. It easily soothed the fear and uneasiness in the students' hearts. They saw that young lady dressed in green and white uniform, standing in front of the dark agents in a flash. Facing those dark agents who were swarming over, she didn't show any signs of retreating. Her expression was calm and indifferent. A pair of bewitching eyes flashed with a resolute radiance as she stared ahead. Profound qi surged intense like fire. The mysterious light that the glowing flame fan shot out was suffused with a devilish red glow. They blotted out the sky and covered the earth as they charged toward the dark ones. That Xian qi was invincible. In everyone's eyes, Yi Qingluo was like a death god who had descended into the world, enough to make everything around her submit to her power. Under that powerful aura, the dark ones felt their chests tighten. Some of the weaker dark ones even coughed up a mouthful of blood. The dark ones in the front row were sent flying. The dark ones immediately gave up on the idea of charging forward. Instead, he tried to break Yi Qingluo's imposing manner from the side. However, they did not have the time to move a single step. The mystical qi, which was like the void, had already landed on the bodies of the dark ones. The entire fiery lair was in a state of intense turmoil. Sky profound supremacy. The dark ones could clearly feel that powerful force. The girl in front of him was only 14 or 15 years old. How could it be a sky profound supreme martial artist? As for those students, after hearing the exclamations of the dark ones, they were shocked. His eyes were filled with astonishment as he looked at Yi Qingluo, whose imposing manner had skyrocketed. Sky profound supreme martial artist? Yi Qingluo was actually a strong sky profound supreme martial artist? Just how deep had she hidden herself? Yi Qingluo, your opponent is me. Behind her, a sinister voice was heard. Chapter 16:19. Bam. A loud sound. That palm wind, which was filled with profound yin qi, was blocked by the glower flame fan. Yi Qingluo flipped over and lifted her leg to kick Yi Qingchen's abdomen. Yi Qingchen's body flew out like a broken kite. Yi Qingluo squinted her eyes, her icy cold gaze without any emotion. Opponent, you're not qualified. Every word was like a sharp silver needle, piercing into Yi Qingqian's ears. Anger at this moment was like a volcano eruption, exploding in her mind. The black qi in Yi Qingqian's eyes became thicker and thicker. The profound yin qi which was constantly released was like vines, closing in on Yi Qingqian's body. Yi Qingqian's arrogance continued to rise. Ah! Yi Qingqian let out a roar. Endless profound yin qi exploded from her body. Damn it! Yi Qingqian was completely eroded by the profound yin qi. If it was Yi Qingqian, she had 100% confidence she could torture her. But, if it was profound yin qi, and under the condition that the array had not been destroyed, it could continue to absorb the surrounding profound yin qi and keep getting stronger. Perhaps, Yi Qingqian was hesitating. Suddenly, a gust of wind attacked from the right. That profound qi carried the momentum of swallowing mountains and rivers, like a raging wave. Who is it? Yi Qingluo's eyes flashed. The moment that gust of wind attacked, her figure suddenly flashed and disappeared into the air. Immediately, a red feather fan appeared out of thin air, sweeping through the air with a piercing sound. Like a rotating spiral knife, it flew towards the direction of the gust of wind. Ding! The sound of weapons colliding, the glower flame fan's attack was disintegrated. The glower flame fan, which had lost the support of profound qi, instantly fell down from the air. A fair little hand suddenly appeared and caught that feather fan steadily. Yi Qingluo did not know when, but she was only 10 steps away from that person who suddenly appeared. Yi Qingluo raised her eyes and her gaze fell onto that person. Wolf Saint Law, looks like my elder sister is extremely important to you. The person in front of him wasn't anyone else but Yi Qingqian's female head in the dark forces, Wolf Saint Law. Wolf Saint Technique's malicious eyes stared coldly at Yi Qingluo. His eyes darkened and a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. This Yi Qingluo? It had only been a month since they last met. He had actually stepped into the profound sky realm. This girl's talent was truly too terrifying. If he allowed her to continue to grow, it would definitely be a huge hindrance to the dark forces. Wolf Saint Technique narrowed his sinister eyes as he looked at Yi Qingluo's gaze, which was filled with dense murderous intent. Yi Qingluo naturally sensed that murderous intent. She snorted softly, a hint of mockery appearing in the depths of her eyes. I heard that Wolf Saint Technique's Wolf Saint force has already been completely destroyed, but Wolf Saint Technique still has the heart to come here to save Big Sister. This deep sense of righteousness really moves me. Hearing Yi Qingluo mention about Wolf Saint's forces which had already been annihilated, the killing intent in Wolf Saint Law's eyes intensified. The Wolf Saint force had cost him many years of blood and sweat. However, they were annihilated by that kid from the Imperial Palace. Moreover, they were completely annihilated. There was no room for him to make a comeback at all. If his lord were to awaken at this moment, if his lord knew about this matter, his life would probably be hard to keep. And the reason why the Imperial Palace annihilated Wolf Saint force, everything was because of this young lady in front of him. She still had the cheek to mention Wolf Saint force. Chapter 1620. Yi Qingluo. I want you to die. I want you to die. Just at this moment, Yi Qingqian, who was still absorbing the profound yin qi, suddenly let out a deafening roar. The black qi surrounding her was getting thicker and thicker. Her black hair, which was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, floated behind her in a horrifying manner. Wolf Saint Art, who was in the midst of attacking, heard that voice. He abruptly stopped his attack. He looked towards Yi Qingqian. The moment he sensed Yi Qingqian being engulfed by the profound yin qi, his expression changed. He speedily rushed towards Yi Qingqian's direction, forcefully pulling the raging Yi Qingqian into his arms. That profound yin qi, when it came into contact with Wolf Saint Art, dissipated. Yi Qingqian, who was still struggling, went limp and fainted in Wolf Saint Art's arms. Wolf Saint Art's expression was gloomy, as he looked at Yi Qingluo with a biting, cold, murderous intent. He opened his mouth and shouted coldly, "Come out!" His voice had just ended when black-robed men appeared one after another. It was the people from the underworld again. Wave after wave, there were at least 130 over of them. The students from various academies, when they saw the medals on those black-robed men, their faces turned pale with fright. These 130 over people from the dark forces. He was not an ordinary dark one, but guardians. 130 over dark guardians. Which meant that the battle power of 130 over people, compared to the more than 400 people he saw now, he was much stronger. They were even stronger. And they were not just a little bit stronger. Yiqing Luo's expression turned cold when she saw these 100 over dark guardians. Wolf Saint Art's forces had already been destroyed. Wolf Saint Art could still order his subordinates. These 100 over guardians, could it be? Indeed, Wolf Saint Art ordered coldly, "Protect the 10 elders. You must stop this group of prey from destroying the array." Yiqing Luo's expression changed. These 100 over guardians were indeed not Wolf Saint Art's subordinates. But they were here to stop them from destroying the array. If Wolf Saint Art ordered these 100 over dark guardians to kill her, these dark guardians would definitely not take any action. But to stop them from destroying the array, which was equivalent to fighting against her. This holy wolf technique. Even though he had lost the upper hand, he still wanted to come here and interfere. They wanted to use this opportunity to offer all of their souls to the King of Darkness. To beg for the King of Darkness's forgiveness? Yiqing Luo looked coldly at the Wolf Saint technique, which was holding Yiqing Chen in his arms, looking at her with a sneer. Her charming eyes slightly narrowed. His gaze became increasingly cold. "With me here, let's see how you plan to stop my brother from destroying the formation." Yiqing Luo's figure stretched out. The gourd flame fan in his hand stirred up waves of Xian Qi. They formed a dense net that sealed off the path of the dark protectors. Immediately following that, Yiqing Luo stood alone in front of those guardians. The profound qi in his body rose sharply, one after another. "Qing Luo." Long Yunzhan kicked away the dark person in front of him as the blue sparkling long sword in his hand flew towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Then he flew up and joined the battle against the dark guardian. The strength of the two of them suppressed the dark guardian till there was no way for him to advance. On the side of Devil Class, they had already settled the dark ones and were attacking the elder who had cast the curse. The elder immediately threw out a smoke bomb. Following that, they all stood up and tried to escape. But they were stopped by Devil Class's students. They rushed up and slit their necks. Those whose necks were directly broken would be directly broken. Chapter 16:21. Overestimating Yourself. Wolf Saint Dharma snorted coldly as a chilly glint flashed past his eyes. Following that, he raised his palm and struck out with a palm strike. Devil Class students sensed the danger. They could only give up on chasing the remaining 6 elders and evaded. That palm strike seemed to have broken the void, shaking the heaven and earth. After it landed on the ground, it caused the entire flame nest to tremble. The ground, which had already turned into ruins, was like a spider web, with countless cracks densely packed together. A loud boom sound was heard. The ground cracked and gravel flew everywhere. Devil Class students evaded in a disheveled manner and some even fell into the cracks. Luckily Yiqing Luo had taught them that set of footwork, which allowed Devil Class students to avoid the danger. After the surrounding tremors had subsided, Devil Class students stabilized themselves. Those 6 elders had long hidden behind Wolf Saint Dharma. Following that, they sat down cross-legged and continued to cast their spells, activating the 2 formations forbidden spells once again. Devil Class students, go against the Dark Guardians. Yiqing Luo also noticed the movements over there. With the appearance of Wolf Saint Dharma, Devil Class students couldn't even think of getting close to those 6 elders. With the death of 4 elders, the formation's speed had slowed down by half. The person who was guarding the elders was Wolf Saint Dharma. Devil Class students' current ability was not enough to go against Wolf Saint Dharma. Why not use these 130 over Dark Guardians for this bunch of youngsters to practice on? Hearing Yiqing Luo's command, those Devil Class students who had adjusted their formation and were preparing to attack Wolf Saint Dharma, almost reflexively moved towards Yiqing Luo's direction. 50 over people attacked those 130 Dark Guardians in an orderly manner. After Yiqing Luo and Long Yunzhan got away, then they all attacked towards Wolf Saint Dharma's direction. This coordination. Simply amazing. All the students from various academies were sighing in their hearts. The performance of Devil Class's students had completely refreshed their understanding of Devil Class. The heroic spirit in their hearts was ignited at this moment. One by one, they perked up their spirits and became more serious in dealing with this batch of Dark Guardians. Sky Profound First Grade Cultivator, dare to challenge the Saint Dharma? Wolf Saint Dharma sneered as he squinted his malicious eyes. No matter how fast Yiqing Luo's advancement was, even so he was no match for him. The wolf sacred beast tightened its grip around the woman in its arms and leaped into the air. The wind from his palm moved like 10,000 layers of wind and waves, directly attacking Yiqing Luo's expression was calm as she waved her glower flame fan and opened it abruptly, blocking that palm wind. The powerful profound qi transformed into a bewitching red glow, forming a beautiful cold lake in midair. In that instant the air was ignited. A sizzling sound could be heard. Boom! The sound of the collision between the qi and the palm wind shook heaven and earth. Soon after, a greenish-white figure broke through the air from the force. Thousands of strands of hair fluttered on her shoulders. It made her extremely beautiful face look even more enchanting and moving. The gourd flame fan in her hand flickered with one complicated profound light after another. Her red lips curled into a smile. At this moment, everything in the world seemed to have lost all its brilliance. There was only one person in the world that could be seen. Wolf Saint technique. If you don't try, how would you know the final result? Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly. The moment her words landed, the expression on her face suddenly turned solemn. Her footwork was displayed. She had already overtaken the direction of Wolf Saint technique. Long Yunzhan immediately coordinated with Yiqing Luo's footwork from the other side. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.